Hi, how's
Good
everybody doing?
afternoon, everyone. My name's Katie, and I work in the Educational Department at NORD. I'll be your host for today's webinar about rare cancer, facts, challenges, and patient stories. Thanks to everyone online for joining us. We have an incredible group of speakers today on Rare Cancer Day 2019. The purpose of Rare Cancer Day is to highlight the challenges that people living with rare cancer face, to unify individuals living with rare cancer, and to raise awareness of rare cancers and the need for more research and patient support. Today's webinar is part of our cost-free series of educational webinars for patients and caregivers. We're glad you're with us today, and we hope you'll join us for future webinars. This webinar is being recorded. We'll make it available in the next few weeks for you to reference. At that time, please feel free to share with those who weren't able to join us today. We're going to be answering questions at the end of this presentation. So if you have a question, you can submit it through the chat function, which you'll find at the lower left-hand corner of your screen. It's the little blue circle to the left of the raise hand button. So you just type in your question and hit submit at any time during the presentation, and we'll put it in the queue.
And if any of you watching on Twitch have any questions, feel free to ask, and I'll
if you have a question that doesn't
get that to
answered
them
today,
for you.
You can email it to education@rarediseases.org, and someone on staff will follow up with you. So I'd like to take a moment to briefly introduce NORD for any of you who may not be familiar with us. We are an independent organization that's leading the fight to improve the lives of those with rare diseases. And we do this through education, research, advocacy, and our patient services. You can learn more about NORD's programs, services, and resources on our website at rarediseases.org. You can also follow NORD on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. So before we begin, I'd like to give a few brief updates. First, we're really excited about the 2019 Rare Diseases and Orphan Products Breakthrough Summit. It's going to take place in Washington, D.C., October 21st and 22nd. The NORD Summit brings together key opinion leaders from patient groups, the FDA, NIH, industry, and research institutions. The attendees all come together to explore new and innovative ways to drive progress for the rare disease community. And there will be a session on rare cancers on the 22nd of October called Advancing Curative Therapies for Rare Cancers. So please visit our website to learn more and register. For the remainder of this year, NORD will be holding monthly webinars about gene therapy. The next webinar will take place October 30th and feature prominent FDA staff, and they will be discussing the FDA's role in gene therapy. So please join us. And now I would like to introduce our speakers. Jim Palma is co-chairman of NORD's Rare Cancer Coalition and the executive director of Target Cancer Foundation. This nationally recognized foundation supports comprehensive rare cancer research programs and patient support services. John Hopper is the co-chairman of NORD's Rare Cancer Coalition, co-chair of GI Cancers Alliance, which is the world's largest patient-focused foundation for GI cancers, and president of the Fibrolamellar Cancer Foundation. Carol DeSantis is a cancer epidemiologist and principal scientist in the Surveillance and Health Services Research Program at the American Cancer Society. She's recently authored in-depth reports on rare cancers in adults. Ms. DeSantis has authored more than 40 peer-reviewed publications and several book chapters. Kristen Anthony is a two-time cancer survivor and president and founder of the PTEN Hamartoma Tumor Syndrome Foundation, working to raise funds for research and to educate the public about PTEN Hamartoma Tumor Syndrome and the lack of research funding for this rare disease. And Nicholas Lindeback is a brave 10-year-old diagnosed with type 2 neurofibromatosis. His first symptoms occurred at age 3. Since his diagnosis, Nicholas underwent 3 major surgeries. He's recovering currently from brain surgery and has begun 6 weeks of daily radiation treatments. Nicholas has kindly agreed to share his story with us today. So we're thrilled to have all of you here today, and without further ado, let me present Mr. Jim Palma.
Thanks very much. Glad to be here today. My name is Jim Palma, and I'm the Executive Director of Target Cancer Foundation, which is a rare cancer research and patient support foundation located in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Target Cancer Foundation was founded through the experience of a rare cancer patient who happened to be my brother-in-law, Paul, who passed away in 2009, but started the foundation himself based on his own experience facing a rare cancer called cholangiocarcinoma. In addition to my role at Target Cancer Foundation, I also serve on the board of directors of NORD, and I'm a founding co-chair of the NORD Rare Cancer Coalition. So on behalf of myself, NORD, and the Rare Cancer Coalition, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today for this webinar and for participating in this first Rare Cancer Day, which we're very excited about. The NORD Rare Cancer Coalition is a unified group of 24 rare cancer-focused NORD member organizations. The coalition was formed in 2017 to create a unified voice to raise awareness of rare cancers, and while the member organizations focus on many different areas, we're all committed to working together to address the challenges that are consistent among all rare cancers, and you'll be hearing about a lot of those on the webinar today. In a short time, the Rare Cancer Coalition is making a significant impact. We've developed a presence at major meetings such as ASCO and the NORD Summit, and we're raising awareness through our presence on panels both here in the U.S. and internationally. In addition, we're empowering our members by providing opportunities to collaborate, network, and share information. If there's anybody on the call who's interested in joining the coalition or learning more, please don't hesitate to reach out to me or to John Hopper, who's co-chair of the Rare Cancer Coalition, or to the NORD team. And with that, I'm happy to turn the program over to Carol DeSantis, who's joining us today from the American Cancer Society. Thanks again.
Hi, thanks. Yes, my name is Carol DeSantis, and as Katie mentioned, I'm an epidemiologist in the research department at the American Cancer Society, and I'm so glad to have a chance to speak with you all today and share some of my research on the important understudied topic of rare cancers. Some of you may be familiar with the American Cancer Society's Cancer Facts and Figures publications, which are produced by the Surveillance Research Group here at ACS. The main Facts and Figures is published every January and is most well known for the current year estimates of cases and deaths for about 50 cancer types. Each year, the publication takes a deep dive into a timely topic of interest, and in 2017, I led the report on rare cancers in adults. We focused on adults here because a few years earlier in 2014, the special section was on childhood and adolescent cancers. And cancers that occur in children and adolescents are often quite different from those that are diagnosed in adults. While our Facts and Figures publications are geared toward a very broad audience, including policymakers, advocates, and the general public, each of our reports is accompanied by an article published in CA, a cancer journal for clinicians, for us to expand our reach to scientific and clinical audiences. But in order to provide a more comprehensive report on rare cancers, the companion article on rare cancers in the U.S., shown here on the right, included patients of all ages, and it is this information that I'll be presenting today. Just to note, all of our Facts and Figures publications can be found on our website, cancer.org/statistics. As many of you know, rare cancers present a number of unique challenges. One of these, in fact, is that there is not even a universally adopted definition for rare cancers, which can make things very complicated when you are trying to describe and research them. The U.S. Orphan Drug Act defined rare cancers as those that affect less than 200,000 people. And this is a definition based on cancer prevalence. That is the number of people alive that have been previously diagnosed with a rare cancer. On the other hand, the National Cancer Institute has defined rare cancers as those that are diagnosed in fewer than 15 people per 100,000 people per year. This is a definition based on incidence or new diagnoses each year. So these are very different definitions, and they've also used a definition of less than 40,000 diagnoses per year. But more recently, RareCare, which is a consortium from the European Union whose initial aims were to describe the burden of rare cancers in Europe, defined rare cancers as those that are diagnosed in fewer than 6 people out of every 100,000 people per year. In addition, this group, which included pathologists, hematologists, other clinicians, and epidemiologists, produced a list of clinically relevant rare cancers. And this is the framework that we used in our study of the rare cancer burden in the U.S. in order to be comparable to the work that had been published in other countries. So using this definition, we identified 181 different types of rare cancers in the U.S. that are perceived by clinicians as single diseases and that are relevant for clinical management and research. In fact, 119 of these are considered very rare in that they have an incidence rate of less than 0.5 cases per 100,000 people per year. Together, these rare cancers represent 20%, or 1 out of every 5 cancers diagnosed in U.S. patients each year. In this study, we examined the distributions of rare and common cancers by a number of demographic characteristics. Let me pause for a moment and orient you to the next few slides. The blue shaded part of each row indicates the percent of diagnoses that are rare cancers, the green the percent that are more common cancers, and the gray part are for cancers that could not be classified either because of missing information or other reasons. So, for example, in the first 2 rows, rare cancers account for about 21% of cancers diagnosed in males compared to 19% diagnosed in females. But the differences by age are much more striking. Rare cancer types accounted for the majority of diagnoses in children and adolescents, as well as about 40% of cancers diagnosed in young adults ages 20 to 39. By race and ethnicity, rare cancers account for a slightly larger proportion of cancers diagnosed in Hispanic, Latino, and Asian Pacific Islander populations. Notably, some cancers that are rare overall are more common in certain groups. For example, adenocarcinoma of the stomach is considered a rare cancer overall, but it is a common cancer among males as well as among Hispanic, Latina, and Asian Pacific Islander females. In our report, we provide incidence rates for each of the 181 rare cancer types by sex and race ethnicity. Now, this figure shows the distribution of rare cancer diagnoses by major cancer site. Rare cancers account for about a third of cancers that occurred in the digestive system, which includes cancers in the oral cavity and pharynx, all of which are rare, the female genital system, and the hematopoietic system, which includes lymphomas and leukemias. In contrast, they account for only about 5 to 6% of cancers of the breast and male genital sites, as well as the urinary and endocrine systems. In part because rare cancers can be more challenging to diagnose, they are more often diagnosed at later stages. This slide shows the proportion of rare and common cancers that are diagnosed at late stages, which generally includes cancers that have spread to nearby lymph nodes or organs, as well as those that have already spread to distant sites or metastasized. Nearly 60% of rare cancers are diagnosed at advanced stages compared to 45% of more common cancers. However, stage of diagnosis does vary for specific cancers within these categories. For example, only 6% of soft tissue sarcomas of the skin and tubular carcinomas of the breast are diagnosed at advanced stages. On the other hand, more than 90% of mesothelioma of the pleura and pericardium, squamous cell carcinoma of the gallbladder, and Mullerian mixed tumors of the ovary are diagnosed at later stages. In part, due to this tendency to be diagnosed at more advanced stages, relative survival is poorer for patients diagnosed with rare cancers. I want to briefly point out that when I say relative survival, what I'm referring to is the percent of cancer patients alive after 5 years divided by the percent of patients of the same age, sex, race that would be expected to be alive after 5 years. So in this way, relative survival accounts for normal life expectancy. As a group, for patients diagnosed with rare cancers, the 1-year survival is 76%, and the 5-year survival is 57%, compared to 1 and 5-year survival of 86 and 75% respectively for patients diagnosed with more common cancers. Importantly, there are substantial variations in survival by specific cancer types, as described in our study. For example, we found that 1-year survival exceeded 90% for 72 rare cancers, including for patients diagnosed with many types of soft tissue sarcomas, classical and nodular lymphocyte predominant Hodgkin lymphoma, and uveal melanoma. In addition, there are many other factors that affect prognosis, after a cancer diagnosis. For example, 5-year survival for children and young adults diagnosed with a rare cancer is about 80%, and this is substantially higher than for older patients diagnosed with a rare cancer, for which survival is as low as 35% for those 80 and older age group. It is also worth noting that in every age group, survival is higher for patients diagnosed with a more common cancer. In summary, any cancer diagnosis is difficult, but rare cancers can be especially and uniquely challenging for patients, their caregivers, and even clinicians. For many rare cancers, research to identify causes or develop strategies for early detection is extremely limited. Progress in screening has been largely limited to more common cancers, in part because of the large number of patients that would be required to be screened to prevent one death. And as a result, patients with a rare cancer often present with symptoms which can be nonspecific. And therefore, rare cancers can be challenging for clinicians to diagnose, often resulting in numerous physician visits, misdiagnoses, and substantial delays in diagnosis. Treatment options for rare cancers are often more limited and less effective than for more common cancers, in part because clinical trials on rare cancers are inherently challenging. Research and resources have historically focused on the most common cancers, and thus development of new cancer therapies has lagged behind for rare cancers, with few exceptions. Notably, there has been tremendous success in the advancement of treatment for many, but not all, childhood cancers. One reason for this is because treatment for childhood cancers has been largely concentrated in specialized centers, and because of the joint research collaborations among these centers, which is a model for studying rare cancers. Finally, the number of rare cancers is likely to continue to increase due to the increased use of molecular markers in the classification of cancers. In other words, cancers are being more and more narrowly defined, so what was once considered one cancer like breast cancer is now known to consist of at least 21 different subtypes. Continued efforts are needed to develop interventions for prevention, early detection, and treatment to reduce the burden of rare cancers. In fact, research on rare cancers has led to the identification of numerous cancer genes and has increased our understanding of overall cancer biology. That's all for me today, but I do want to acknowledge my ACS colleagues and collaborators on this work, and I also just want to give one last plug for our website, where you can find additional information on our Cancer Facts and Figures special sections on childhood and adolescent cancers and rare cancers in adults. Also coming in 2020 is the sneak preview, but the special topic of our Cancer Facts and Figures will be cancers in adolescents and young adults. Thanks so much for your time, and I will pass it over to Kristen now.
Hi, thank you, Carol. I am Kristen Anthony, and I'm the president and founder of the P10 Hemeratoma Tumor Syndrome Foundation. What is P10 Hemeratoma Tumor Syndrome? P10 Hemeratoma Tumor Syndrome is a rare genetic condition that causes an increased risk for certain cancers, benign growths, and neurodevelopmental conditions, and it affects approximately 1 in 200,000 individuals. The cancer risks include breast, thyroid, kidney, colon, endometrial, and melanoma. In the picture to the right, you can see some of our amazing community at our first ever international P10 symposium, which we hosted. My motivation and what brought me into this space is I am personally affected, like many who venture into the rare disease and rare cancer space. I am a now 3-time cancer survivor. My diagnostic journey began after I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer at a young age and was having breast health issues. Like many of us on the call who are affected by a rare cancer or a rare disease, it was a bit of a journey when I brought it up to my physicians that maybe there was a correlation between my breast health issues and having had thyroid cancer, and was told, no, absolutely not. We're just going to treat this cancer and you'll be on your way. Fortunately, I persisted and didn't give up on my quest to get answers. I did online research and found a disease called Cowden syndrome, which is one of the presentations under the umbrella of P10 hemeratoma tumor syndrome. Fortunately, we caught this disease early so that I can be proactive in screening and prevention of cancers. I was fortunate to have an incredible visit at the Cleveland Clinic, was impressed by the work that they do, and asked how I could help and give back. The clinician giggled a bit and said, well, what we encourage our patients and our community to do is to go out and start great things. And thus our foundation was born in 2013. Due to the incredible growth of our foundation and our community, I left my career to run the foundation full-time, initially as a volunteer. The picture to the right, you can see our second symposium, which was actually held at the Cleveland Clinic, which doubled in size year over year. I'm going to talk a little bit about the foundation successes and what we've been able to do thanks to a highly motivated community. As I mentioned, we had 2 incredibly successful scientific symposia. We also launched the first ever international patient-powered registry for patients with P10 hemeratoma tumor syndrome on Rare Disease Day 2019. At the time that I did this slide, we actually had 90 patients enrolled. Now we're at 167 patients, which is really incredible. We are working within our foundation to begin a biobank of stem cell lines to support research and to give our research teams the tools necessary to do what they're doing. You can see in the slide to the right, or the picture to the right, I'm sorry, we talk a little bit about our toolbox approach with our Centers of Excellence program, with our patient registry, with our meetings, and with our biobank. Within our Centers of Excellence program, we've had 2 to apply, the Cleveland Clinic and Boston Children's Hospital. We're extremely excited about that. Another very exciting, one of my favorite things that we've been able to do as a community through our International Family Council is we launched our first Awareness Day and Awareness Month. Our Awareness Day is coming up on October 23rd. We also collectively came up with a worldwide advocacy campaign. You can find the page on Facebook, if you're on Facebook, at P10 Rocks Around the World. And you can see one of our precious patients there painting these beautiful rocks. And our rocks have been shared, impressively so, from the Alamo in Texas all the way to the Great Wall of China.
We'll make some of those on stream sometime. That sounds like
this
fun.
This quote really means a lot to me, and it was shared by one of our postdocs who's been incredibly supportive of research in our disease space and of our patients. Nothing in life is to be feared. It is only to be understood. She asked me, if you were granted one wish, what would it be? And of course, for our patients, it would be a cure. Our focus is to collaborate with everyone. You're only successful when you band together as a community. My advice to new organizations, entering into this unknown territory is to remain steadfast, never lose sight of why you began your journey, and patients are at the center of everything we do. And I can truly say that our community is strong and resilient and absolutely amazing, and they're heroes of mine. And with that, I will introduce a new hero of mine and an incredible warrior. Nicholas is absolutely amazing. You guys are going to be so impressed with his story. Nicholas?
Hi. Living with a rare disorder. I am Nicholas Wonderbeck. I am 10 years old. I have neurofibromatosis type 2. Neurofibromatosis is a genetic disorder that causes tumors to grow on nerves in the body. 1 in 3,000 people have NF. NF2 is a more rare type and affects about 1 in 25,000 people. There is no cure for NF at this time. Living with NF2. My parents knew something was wrong on a ski trip when I was 3. My ski teacher couldn't get a ski boot on my left foot. It turns out I had a foot drop on my left foot and couldn't put my toe in the air. It took a really long time for my parents to find out what was causing this problem. Living with NF2. Since I was diagnosed, I have been through a lot of medical stuff and have more to go. The summer before I started first grade, I had a tendon transfer to help my foot drop and surgery to reconstruct my left foot. Last summer, I had to have surgery to remove a tumor in my upper spine that was starting to impact my spinal cord. In August of this year, I had surgery to remove a tumor in the cerebellum of my brain. This tumor turned out to be a grade 3 anaplastic adenoma, which I can't even pronounce, which is a rare type of brain tumor. I am currently having daily proton beam radiation treatments for my brain tumor at MGH. I will have my 4th surgery after I finish radiation to remove a tumor in my shoulder that is causing weakness in my right hand and arm. A lot of people helped me. My parents helped me a lot with my NF2. They make sure that I see the best doctors to take good care of me. My teachers help me. They let me do my work from Boston. My extended family helps me. They take care of my sister and our dog while we are away and support us financially because this stuff is expensive. My friends at home help me. They are nice to me and keep me company on my Xbox while I'm in Boston. My friends Jack and Santiago carried my backpack at school last year for me for a month while I was recovering. My doctors helped me. They manage my case well and help maximize my quality of life. My doctors take good care of me. Dr. Ulrich at Boston Children's Hospital heads my medical care. She's kind of like a quarterback. Dr. Smith at Boston Children's is my neurosurgeon. He removed a tumor in my brain and spine and gave me an awesome mohawk haircut and tells bad jokes. Dr. Tarbell at MGH is heading my radiation. There are many other doctors, nurses, and assistants who also help me a lot. Challenges I face because NF2 is so rare. Some things are difficult for me and people don't understand because they don't know about NF2. While other kids talk about baseball games and school performances, I usually talk about surgeries, MRIs, and anesthesia. Because NF2 is so rare, it is more difficult to find the great care I need. All of my doctors are in Boston. We now live in Arizona, but have been coming to Boston for about 6 years. Research funding is more limited because less people know about NF2. I don't know what my future holds. I like raising awareness. I learn about it, I talk about it, I wear the clothes. When people ask about it, it gives you a chance to educate them. PTF walks and other events raise awareness. I like to give free speeches on webinars. My NF2 and brain cancer are rare, but together we are not rare. Thank you.
That kid gave a kick-ass presentation.
Thank you, Nicholas.
Nice job.
This is John Hopper, and I am the co-chair of the Rare Cancer Coalition for NORD, along with my partner there, Jim Palma. I'm not sure how you follow somebody like Nicholas and Kristen. Their stories are amazing. They're powerful. And they give examples to all of us, I think, who are in the rare cancer world as to how we move forward with our organizations and our patient communities and our research communities. So Kristen and Nicholas, thank you so much for sharing your stories. Carol, thank you for all the statistics that you gave us also, which really brings it to life. So I am the president of the Fibrolamellar Cancer Foundation, which is one of the ultra-rare cancers that Carol was talking about before. And like people like Jim and others that I know are on this webinar here, we all know that the voice of a rare cancer, especially an ultra-rare cancer, isn't heard loud enough. The phone doesn't ring every day for people just dying to help us out. We have to be outbound for that. And that's one of the reasons we started the Rare Cancer Coalition, again, bringing in unified voices, making ourselves heard, and making sure that those who need to hear us, the right ones that need us hear, the key stakeholders, do that. It's one of the reasons also that I, along with people like Jim and a few others, started the GI Cancer Alliance, because if you look at the cancer that you have, you try to fit it into a larger group if possible, so that your voice is heard amongst other cancers. So there's lots of ways to be able to approach how you can promote your own cancer foundation. And here we are on Rare Cancer Day. Particularly here, what I'm going to show you is a couple of things that you can do to help promote Rare Cancer Day and your organization in particular. So the first slide here is the hashtag Rare Cancer Day. I encourage everyone who's listening to this to use that as much as possible.
And I have that live feed up there on this side of the screen
that are out there. And if you go to the website that we have here, the rarediseases.org, Get Involved Rare Cancer Coalition, you can pick up some of the factoids that we have here, many of which Carol had mentioned.
It's okay, I understand.
We also have banners for you. So again, if you look at here,
I usually don't have money either.
Easy to put up on your website, put on your Instagram, put on your Facebook page, etc. But importantly, again, it gets your voice heard so that you're not alone. What I have here is an example of what my organization did, and I'm sure others have done it too, but how do you combine your rare cancer with the strength of the Rare Cancer Coalition on a day like today? So here particularly, we're talking about what our foundation's all about. We're incorporating Rare Cancer Day, and we've even gone beyond that. So if you actually Googled Senator Richard Blumenthal today with Rare Cancer Day, you'll probably see a bunch of press releases out there, because as a senior U.S. Senator, he is supporting this NORD effort quite a bit, recognizing that there is a need for increased federal funding so we can find a cure for our cancer, we can get more clinical trials for our cancer. So we thank Senator Blumenthal's office for supporting this day. And again, if you Google that, I'm sure you'll see some of the quotes that he has out there today. So again, encouraging you all on this day, even though we have a few hours left, to do as much as you can to publicize this. Again, this is Rare Cancer Day. The objectives, as we talked about before, is combining all the powers that we have to raise national awareness for diagnosis, for research, for patient connections and isolations. And as is mentioned before, use all the tools that you have, your Facebook Live, this Rare Cancer webinar, the social media toolkit, which is on that URL that I mentioned before, and all the infographics and banners and logos that we have here. You know, together again, we can be loud. This day, we hope, is going to be an annual day. Might even extend beyond just a day, hopefully. We'll see what kind of reaction we get from all of you. But again, the importance here is for all of us to rally together and to have a loud voice to get more aggressive and more solutions to our rare cancers here. So with that in mind, I'm actually going to switch this back over to Katie, who's going to take questions and answers. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, so thank you for your presentation, Jim, John, Carol, Kristen, and Nicholas. It's really great for us to hear all of your different perspectives. So we've been collecting questions from participants during the webinar, and we're going to move to a question and answer session. The team's going to try to answer as many of your questions as possible, but we may not be able to answer all of them. And I just want to make a note that we've received a lot of very specific medical questions. And since our speakers today are not clinicians, we'd love to help, but we won't be able to address all of those. So my first question I'm going to ask to Nicholas. So the question, Nicholas, is, have you met any other kids with rare cancers? And what would your advice to another rare cancer patient be?
I have met other kids with NF2. It's good to find people that understand me. Doing the CTF walks helped me with finding friends like me.
Oh, that's great. Thanks, Nicholas. And I also want to tell you that you're getting all kinds of compliments from our audience members. They loved your talk. And let me follow that. Actually, Chris, and I have a question that's sort of similar, and I think since you've experienced rare cancer, here's the question. From your experience, what would you say or share with somebody newly diagnosed with a rare cancer?
I would say, while it's scary and overwhelming, that they're not alone. Seek community because there is comfort in knowing that there are people that understand exactly where you are and what your fears are and what the highs and lows can be. But most importantly, you're not alone. There are others out there.
Yeah, and I think that's such an important message. I've heard so many people say they're so uplifted, when they find somebody to support them, and so that's some of the great work that all the different foundations and patient advocacy groups are doing. Next, I think maybe Jim or John, you can take this, but how can people find the right doctors, and how can people find clinical trials for rare cancers?
Jim, you want to go first?
Sure. I'll start. It's a great question, and I think actually the organizations that are on this call are often the best source for that. So there's a lot of advocacy organizations that are dedicated to specific rare cancers, and those organizations and the patients that they work with are the world's experts on these diseases. So really connecting with a patient advocacy organization that represents the type of rare cancer that you're facing can be an incredibly important step towards identifying centers of excellence, doctors who specialize in a particular rare cancer, and especially clinical trials, which often in rare cancers offer an incredibly important chance at treatment versus the standard of care.
So I'll just add to that. So go to clinicaltrials.gov, and you'll see clinical trials that are listed for your cancer. You just put in the search tool the cancer that you're looking for. So that's also very important. As Jim said, many of the specific cancer websites will have a locator for treatment centers and physicians, et cetera, on it. The other group never to overlook is the National Cancer Institutes. While they may be also noted on individual websites or clinicaltrials.gov, having a relationship with them, it's free for everyone here. We're taxpayers, and a lot of people forget that. They do treat, they do clinical trials. I would definitely check in with them also.
Great. No, thank you. That's really useful information. And you've just given us a lot of great resources. Other people are asking about resources available to help. Does anybody have any other resources for rare cancer patients they'd like to recommend? Okay. Well, so the next one of our participants is asking if somebody could elaborate more on the use of a biobank.
Hi, this is Kristen. I'm not sure if that question was directed to me since I spoke on that, but we are in the process of building ours now. We're collaborating with a local university researcher. We're going to start small and then build from there and add the protocol for that to our current registry protocol. One of our researchers at a center shared with me that using biomaterials for clinical purposes versus research purposes can be a definite issue at large academic centers. So we see this as an opportunity to provide one additional tool for our research teams available to everybody with the protocol going through a process set up by our foundation. I hope that helps, but if you have any other questions, I'm happy to talk with whomever offline.
Yeah, no, that's very helpful, Kristen. And just a follow-up, are you working with any other groups in any other countries?
Yes, actually one of the individuals that I collaborate with quite frequently, Claudio L.S., he's in Italy, and he is, I think, listening to the call. He and I both share the mantra that collaboration is the only way. So we both are working on our patient registry. Currently, he got ethics approval in Italy, and they're building out all of the surveys and necessary materials in Italian, which has really been, an amazing patient-centered collaborative effort. And we intend on continuing that going forward, and also collaborating with other new organizations in our space that are being formed and starting as we speak.
Yeah, oh no, that's inspirational and great to hear, and coming together and collaborating is really the answer. So no, thank you. I have a question. This might be a good one for Carol. It said, are there commonalities that rare cancers share, and are there certain demographics or groups of people that are affected by rare cancers?
Some of the data that I showed, we did look at that. I think there's some usefulness in combining rare cancers together and looking at them, especially for advocacy and general things like that. But I also think, each cancer type is unique, and so you can't lump them together too much. But certainly, cancers that occur in younger people, are much more often the rare cancers. I hope I answered your question, and those resources that I pointed to on our website, cancer.org/statistics, also provides more information as well.
Great. No, that's very helpful. Thank you. Thank you. So we have a couple people here who want to be activists and help. So let me read one of their questions that says, how can I make a difference in my area to let people know about rare cancers? We were hit by this recently and did not have a good outcome. But being on the group site gave me so much information. I want people to know there's hope. So if people want to become active and they want to do more to help and advocate for rare cancers, and I'll just put this out to the group, how can they become more involved?
I'll give it a shot here. There's lots of ways that you can do that. Again, if you're not affiliated with a foundation or a patient advocacy group, certainly look for that first and get in contact with that organization. There's always volunteer opportunities within those along the way. The other way that you can get involved certainly is just being an advocate within your own local media, and even your own local hospitals, et cetera. If you are continuing to try to use the NORD name, that will give you certainly great recognition. I'd say the staff at NORD also is particularly experienced at helping people who want to be mobilized in the area of helping whatever individual cancer you have, how to do that. So I always look at that and say, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's been done successfully by a bunch of groups. Use the resources at NORD, I would say, to certainly find ways that you can be in the front line, if that's what you want, or behind the scenes and helping out, even in things such as social media, to get the word out about your particular disease. There's always a need to have that going on consistently. So those are a couple of suggestions I would have.
Yeah, no, that's terrific, and yes, thank you. We here at NORD are here to help however we can, and appreciate you providing those different tips. Here I have one. It says, how can research provide clinicians with the information that they need to better support patients? So anybody have any ideas there? How can research provide clinicians with information they need to better support patients?
Hi, this is Kristen again. So let me make sure I understand the question. How can we provide information to clinicians about how to better support patients? Is that right?
No, I think, Kristen, it's you know, how can research results and research findings inform clinicians and help them to support patients?
Gotcha.
Hi, it's Carol. So, I mean, I think like part of our intention, as I was mentioning with our article in the CA Journal, which is focused to clinicians, is just to educate clinicians as much as possible. I mean, there's just inherent challenges, you know, when someone presents with symptoms, you know, until there's enough research to be able to identify something with some simple test. I mean, that's way further, or maybe not way further down the road. I mean, there are people that are probably working on that. But I think the most important thing is just to provide education and awareness.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Jim, and I agree with that, and would just add, you know, I think one of the things that really can serve as an impediment to progress in developing effective treatments for rare cancers is just a lack of research and research tools. So as advocates, we can really do a lot, not only by raising awareness of rare cancers, but also as being research advocates, helping organizations that fundraise towards research and helping to make sure that dollars are going in the direction of rare cancers as well as more common cancers. Because when the data is generated, when publications come out, clinical trials follow and doctors take notice. So it really is important that we play a role in advocating not only for awareness, but for research as well.
No, that's great. I agree with you wholeheartedly. Nicholas, I'm going to send another question your way. We have people curious if there are things that make you feel better when you're undergoing your treatment. So are there any things that you like to do or that kind of help you to feel better while you're undergoing treatment for your cancer?
Well, I like to play on my Xbox, and that helps me, and also playing with my special bear.
Oh, so what's your bear look like?
He's beat up, kind of. And he's brown.
Well, those are the best kind of bears. Okay, thank you, Nicholas. Another question from the audience. How can I get involved advocating for rare cancer drug development? Anybody have any thoughts there?
Hi, this is Jim. So there are a lot of ways, and often this does come through partnerships with advocacy organizations, but one way that I know a lot of advocates and patients especially can help is by actually meeting with companies and serving on advisory boards for companies. The patient voice is incredibly important as drugs are being developed, and it's something that's taken very seriously. So that's something that, I think the coalition can definitely help to develop some tools on, and we're trying to create some educational materials around for the coalition as a whole. So hopefully more to come on that, but definitely happy to talk more about that after the webinar if anybody would like to.
Oh, no, great. That's great. So another question from the audience, do any rare cancer organizations or leaders have any tips on off-label insurance approval? So I'll repeat, do any rare cancer organizations or leaders have any helpful tips on off-label insurance approval? So I don't know if that's something you've encountered in your experience, but thought I'd put that out there. Okay, so maybe not at this time. We'll try to get back to the person who sent that. Well, I guess we're getting close to the end of our time, and so maybe we could go around and have each of you talk about what Rare Cancer Day means to you. This is an exciting event. It's the first Rare Cancer Day put together by the Rare Cancer Coalition. Rare cancer is at the heart of most of your work or what's impacting your lives. So, Jim, maybe I can start with you and just say, what does Rare Cancer Day mean to you?
Sure, and just thank you again to everybody for joining, and thank you to NORD for coordinating this. As I think about Rare Cancer Day and what it means, I'm incredibly excited. This is the first time we've done this, and the response that we've gotten, not only on just this one event, this webinar, but on social media all day and from people who have been reaching out, has really been amazing. So while rare cancers individually, certainly may not represent huge numbers of people collectively, we really do represent a huge number of people. And by coming together, I think we can do a lot to raise awareness. And I think, awareness can be a very broad and general term, but in this case, we know that the experience of facing a rare cancer is not necessarily the same as the experience of facing a common cancer. And usually people don't know that until they're faced with a rare cancer themselves, or if they're impacted through a family member. So I think as we get the word out, we can really help to change the perception and help people to understand the needs and the challenges of researchers and patients and families. And by doing so, we can really make a difference. So thank you again.
Oh, no, that's really great comments. Thank you, Jim. John, what does Rare Cancer Day mean to you?
I'll tell you, it's a fantastic opportunity to bring rare cancer to the forefront, especially for the key influencers. I was amazed when I went out to see Senator Blumenthal 2 weeks ago with NORD's Rachel Scheer, and the welcome that we got, the support that we got, and then later on met with several U.S. congressmen, was to me refreshing, hopeful, and an area where I say we actually need to tap into more often. So I look at this by actually having an anchor day annually, and perhaps in the future, perhaps with even more lead time and more things before the actual Rare Cancer Day. There's a lot we can get through. And again, just hearing those people on the Hill talk about the need for more government funding certainly rings true to all of our ears. So I look at this as being a unique opportunity to bring it to the forefront for those who can really make a difference.
No, that's great, John, and hopefully this is just the very beginning. So, Carol, any thoughts on Rare Cancer Day and what it means to you?
Sure. Well, so I was in the middle of working on this report when my brother-in-law was diagnosed with a soft tissue sarcoma, and it took over a year for him from the onset of symptoms to be diagnosed. So even though he had myself and I had many people as resources to get information and to push for answers. It still was such a difficult process, as I'm sure many on the call have experienced. So it just really pushes me to understand kind of the need for support for patients and the need for people to understand to be their own advocates in the healthcare system with their doctors if they have symptoms, to keep pushing to find out what's going on. So yeah, this is personal for me as well, and I think it's important to do more research and to get this out there and to just shine a light here. Thanks.
Oh, well, that's great, and thank you for sharing your personal story. I hope your brother's doing well, and yeah. So, Kristen, thoughts from you? What does Rare Cancer Day mean to you?
Absolutely. So for Rare Cancer Day, I think about my mantra, which is raising awareness is one step closer to treatment or cure. And it's very important to us in our community to make sure people get an early diagnosis. And in my own family, we have 3 generations, none of whom were initially diagnosed in a clinic. Unfortunately, my mom passed away with her 3rd cancer, never knowing that she actually had the same mutation that I had. So if we can make a difference for a family with an early diagnosis by raising awareness and then using that awareness to help researchers with funding and moving closer to treatments, then that is everything.
Yeah, that, it really is, and every rare cancer is rare, but then you start to talk to people and you find more and more people who have had this impacting their own lives. I'd like to ask this question also to the audience. If anybody wants to write in and say what Rare Cancer Day means to them, we'll be thrilled to read it on this webinar. And, Nicholas, a lot of times they save the last word for the star of the show, so I'm coming to you last to see what Rare Cancer Day means to you.
Rare Cancer Day is a day for other kids like me to feel special and not alone. Thank you for having me.
Oh, that's great, and you sure are special, Nicholas. We thank you for being here, and I want to thank everybody, John, Jim, Carol, Kristen, Nicholas. It's really, really been a motivational experience listening to all of your stories. And Nicholas, I know everybody on this webinar wants to wish you and your family well, so you keep up the fight and hang in there. And thank you to the Rare Cancer Coalition for the amazing role they're playing to raise awareness and support for rare cancers. So if anybody has a question that was not answered today or a suggestion for a future webinar topic, please feel free to email us at education@rarediseases.org, and someone on our staff will follow up with you. And after this webinar, you're going to receive a short survey, so we encourage you to complete it because it'll help us to develop our future webinars. So thank you so much for joining us. Everybody go out, post on social media about rare cancer and Rare Cancer Day awareness, #Rare Cancer Day, and have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
This concludes today's call. You may now disconnect.
Well, that was the Rare Cancer Day stream. Let's see here. Do they have any social medias to follow? Yes, let me actually take you to their Twitter. Give me a second. Yeah. Hold on. While I figure out where the heck my stuff's going. Alright. I've got a bit of a clunky setup over here. My apologies. So, let me see here. We'll get it, though. Okay, so as you can see, like on the left-hand side of the screen there, I've got the live Twitter feed for the hashtag Rare Cancer Day. And you can see quite a few good groups to follow through there. But let me go first. Let me change this overlay here. OBS, are you gonna cooperate with me today? Okay. Make this a bit bigger. That's what we're looking for. Excuse me. Okay, so we're gonna go to Rare Diseases, which is the National Organization for Rare Disorders website, and I'll share that in the chat here. You'll definitely want to follow that. You can find all their links to their website and stuff there. If you have a few extra bucks and you feel like you could donate, it would be really awesome, and it would help a lot if you could go to this link here in that shout out to their donation page and donate a little bit of money. Not to brag, I just want to tell everybody that I started. I gave gave $10 today, so if I can do it, hopefully maybe you can follow suit and do the same thing. Also on my Facebook page for insomniadoodles.com, for my Insomnia Doodles Facebook page, I'm doing a special donation offer. Let me get the link to that. If you donate to that, I'll also give you a free emote design, logo design, or just a simple doodle. Let me go to my Facebook for that. I apologize if we get bombarded with Facebook notification sounds. I should have turned that off, but I didn't. So if I get a message or something, I apologize that you're going to hear that, but I guess it's not the worst thing ever. Let's see here. So this post right here, it's a long and weird link, so I didn't set the bot up to share it. But here it is to this post where if you, whoa, that's terrible. I am sorry. That link didn't even work. Shoot. Hold on. Let me see if I can fix this. I'm sorry about flooding the chat. That was bad. That was just bad, you guys. Okay, I think this will work better. Why does Facebook gotta have weird links? Okay, here you go. We'll go with this one here. That should work. It should take you to... Yeah, okay, it takes you to the post where you can leave the donation. If you donate on that one, make sure your donation is not anonymous. That way I know you were the one that sent it. And then I can, to do the art for you. Just send me a message and I'll do the simple doodle, free logo, free emote. If you're looking for examples of what kind of emotes I can do, here are my 3 emotes that I made for myself on my channel. I am definitely not a professional by any means, but I think they turned out alright. So if you donate any amount, it could just be like $1. That's fine. You'll get an emote for that, for donating to them. That face when you don't have any money to donate. It's okay. It's fine. I don't want to make anybody feel uncomfortable if they can't donate either, but if you have the ability to donate, that option's available for you. And it would really help. But if you can't donate, that's why we're here. We're going to learn a little bit about rare disorders, or rare cancers, and, awareness, as that, I think Kristen was the one that said this, awareness is a step closer to finding a cure. So that's so important. Whoops, okay. Don't mean to show off all that fun stuff there. Okay. So, let's go check out the hashtag here for Rare Disorders, or Rare Cancer Day. Again, the feed is right there on my page, but I kind of want to look through this myself. Okay. So this is another page that you might want to follow. They did mention this during that webinar. The Fibromelar Cancer, at Fibro Foundation on Twitter. Let me get the link to that in the chat for you guys, so you can follow them as well if you're interested. Okay. And let's go check out their website. Okay. Fibromelar hepatocellular carcinoma. That's a mouthful. Fibromelar hepatocellular carcinoma. Fibromelar hepatocellular carcinoma. Okay, let's get this right. It took me 18 years to learn how to say my condition, panhypopituitarism, correctly, so it'll be a miracle if I can say this correctly on the 4th try. Fibromelar hepatocellular carcinoma is a rare liver cancer that usually occurs in adolescents and young adults who have no history of liver disease. Patients typically present with symptoms which may include abdominal, shoulder, or back pain, loss of appetite, weight loss, jaundice, and occasionally a palpable mass. The typical treatment is surgical removal of the tumor. When the tumor cannot be removed surgically or when there is a distant spread, other therapies may be used to slow down the spread of the disease. There is no standard regimen, so non-surgical therapy varies from patient to patient. That has to be so hard if you have this condition and you don't know what your treatment's going to be. That uncertainty has to be really overwhelming. These therapies are not typically curative. It may shrink tumors for a period of time. There's a frequently asked questions page and some facts. Fibromelar strikes males and females alike. Risk factors for fibromelar remain unidentified. Fibromelar affects primarily adolescents and young adults, although cases as young as 2 and as old as 74 are known. Currently, there are no effective treatment options other than liver resection surgery, which can be curative before metastatic spread. Because the liver is the only organ which can regenerate itself. I actually didn't know that about the liver. Okay. Fun facts we're learning today. It wasn't even cancer related. Removal of diseased portions of the liver do not leave the patient with compromised liver function due to decreased liver size. Liver function typically returns to normal within 2 to 3 weeks, and liver size within 3 to 6 months. Wow, that's fascinating. Here's some notifications in chat. Let me check out here. Uncertainty when it comes to your health must be horrifying / terrifying. Yeah, indeed. Let me see here. I'm gonna move some things around so that I can see the chat in the browser a little bit better. Oh no, I am so sorry, you guys. I didn't mean to mess up the window there for you. That should have fixed it. I've got my computer screen up here, and then down here I've got my Cintiq. And I'm trying to bounce between both of these, and finding the right kind of setup is a little wonky. I think I've got it now, though. We're good. Okay. Which is why we need to invest in medical research and ensure healthcare is a right, so people don't have to worry about such things much anymore. Agreed. Thank you. Yes. Yep. Both of those things, 100%. Now clap. Was it too loud? I'm sorry if it was, but I had to emphasize how much I agreed with you there. Okay. So, the fibromelar variant for hepatocellular carcinoma differs from the classical form of hepatocellular carcinoma in several important aspects, including most patients with fibromelar do not have the underlying cirrhosis of the liver. Okay. Hepatitis B infection is very uncommon in patients with fibromelar. Serum levels of alpha fetoprotein are usually not elevated in patients with fibromelar. Okay. So that's where it's different. Initial diagnosis generally comes from symptoms arising from advanced disease. There could be a link between... Okay. Wow. So basically what that last sentence said, at least this is what I'm gathering from it. I apologize if I'm getting the wrong message here. But it seems like you generally only get diagnosed with this form of cancer when it's already pretty far along. When it's already advanced so far that it's, you're deep into it. There could be a link between fibromelar and gynecomastia. Okay, there we go. Gynecomastia, and that the hormonal influence of the fibromelar cancer cells cause gynecomastia, which is a condition of pubescent boys and men where they show excessive breast tissue. Okay. Fibromegaly was first identified in the 1950s, and the disease was named after John Craig, MD, who was on the board of directors of the FCF and heads up the grant review committee. Okay. No, I just found it amusing. I'm glad that I could amuse you. Alright. Well, let's check this out. Faces of Fibromegaly. The purpose of this section is to share the journeys of patients and families affected by fibromegaly. These stories are written by patients and families in their own words. Click on each thumbnail photo for that patient's story. Some of these families are willing to speak directly with other patients and families, and there's contact information so that you can get in touch with them. I'm the sort of guy that puts claps between word to emphasize a point, right? I used to do it ironically as a joke, but now I just kind of do it. I do the same thing, like in like tweets or text messages, such as, earlier when you said, healthcare is a human right, agreed. I make use of, that emote is always, or emoji is always one of the, on the top of my list for commonly used, because I do that so often. So there's a list of current patients, patients in remission, and patients who sadly have passed. So we'll read a couple from each. Okay, so this is Elise, I think that's how you say her name. My name is Elise, and when I was 20 years old when I was diagnosed. I have to make this a bit bigger because my eyes are so bad. Okay. I have lived in St. Joseph, Michigan all my life. I have a single mom and an older brother. I graduated from high school in 2014. Excuse me, I'm sorry. And I'll be graduating Valparaiso University with my bachelor's degree in psychology in December of 2018. Congratulations! That's cool. I know a streamer that does it as a joke and say stuff like more women prison guards or... Oh, wow. Oh, I see what you're... I get what you're saying. Okay, I'm gonna continue to read their story. I've made it almost all the way through my junior year of college before I knew I had this terrible disease. It was Mother's Day weekend, May 2017. I was back from college for the weekend to celebrate my brother's graduation and Mother's Day. The pain began right after my brother's college graduation ceremony on Saturday. It started as what felt like a cramp, and then it grew in size and intensity. By dinner time, the pain felt like a knife stabbing in my right gut. My mom asked me if I wanted to go to the ER, but I assured her that I was fine and could deal with it. That is such an American thing to do. Because it is so expensive to go to an ER in our country that even though you have a serious issue like a stabbing pain in your side, we're kind of conditioned to just tough it out when it could be something very serious. This kind of thing happens all the time. After all, the next day was Mother's Day, and I had the whole day planned out for her. Aw. I laid in bed around 9 p.m. that night, and I couldn't lean forward to pull the sheets over me. My mom tucked me in and asked again if I wanted to go to the hospital. I told her I would consider going after lunch the next day, since most of my plans that day were in the morning. And that's just what I did. I made it through Mother's Day breakfast, gave my mom her presents, got us a group picture, then I explained to her that the pain was still stabbing and intensifying by the minute, so we left right for the hospital. After a number of hours in the emergency room, the doctor told me that I had a 13.5 centimeter mass in my liver. They were, and still are, stumped as to how I never had a single bit of pain until it reached this giant size. The doctor said that they weren't able to remove the tumor, which they thought to be adenoma, because they'd never operated on a liver tumor over 5 centimeters. About a week later, the University of Chicago Hospital called and said they had a space for me on their surgical wing. After a very painful ride in an ambulance to Chicago, I got situated in a room, and my surgery was scheduled for May 22nd, 2017, with Dr. Bodzin, with the doctor. After surgery, he let us know that along with the 13.5 centimeter tumor, he also removed 10 really small tumors from the same spot in my liver. This meant removing the right lobe of my liver, as well as my gallbladder. My scar ended up being a 5-inch midline with a 1 centimeter scar with my drainage tube, where my drainage tube was for the week of the hospital recovery. A day later, the pathology report came back on my tumor that the mass was not an adenoma, it was fibromegaly, hepatocellular carcinoma. That month, we did a lot of research and ended up pressing my oncologist to give me scans every 3 months indefinitely to check for new growths. Going to try to go to lunch, but I'll leave this on. Oh, thanks, Bill. I really appreciate that. Enjoy your lunch. Hope to see you back later. I'll be here for a while. From the very beginning of diagnosis, I decided I would do everything I could to keep cancer out of my body. After my recovery from surgery, I traveled to Eden Valley Institute in Colorado, where they specialize in treating diagnoses historically. I learned how to eat plant-based vegan and stay away from the sugars that cancer feeds on. I didn't know cancer feeds on... Well, I guess I don't know a whole lot about cancers, so I'm learning some pretty interesting things here today. I also learned how hydrotherapy heat baths and how using an infrared dome over affected areas can aid the immune system and assist in making it so cancer cells doesn't have a chance to multiply and grow. Okay. I went back to my college at Valparaiso University for my senior year and to finish up my incomplete classes from junior year. Though I was assured by my oncologist that I could go to school and behave as if I had never had cancer before, my experience in Eden Valley and my research into holistic treatment taught and convinced me that I couldn't go back to college drinking and eating fatty and sugary foods. I read that refined sugars energizes cancer cells, so drinking alcohol was not going to be in my near future. I need to take my health and immune system very seriously if I want to keep from having recurrences. I stopped drinking, don't eat fast food or processed foods, and went vegan. I also kept myself away from dangerous, germy, and smoky places near campus. I really wanted to do everything I could, and though it sounds like I made it so I couldn't live a normal, fun college life, that's completely not true. I had friends over, I went on dates, and I allowed myself to cheat meal days where I could get my friends together to make homemade pizza or a seafood dish to celebrate my clean scans. But for the most part, I did everything I learned would help. I went a full year before my oncologist found recurrence inside of me. At a regular scan in June 2018, my MRI showed a golf ball-sized growth in a lymph node near my right kidney and pancreas. My oncologist added that in hindsight he could see a nickel-sized mass in my March scans, so my body probably only went 7 months before growing a tumor. We scheduled the surgery for June 27th and spent a lot of time on the phone with my surgeon, that these factors put me at high risk for complications. My surgery... Wow, excuse my voice there for a second. Am I going through puberty finally? Holy crap. Okay. These stories are scary. I mean... Yeah, definitely. But they happen. So I think it's important to learn as much as we can about them and what it's like so that we can really sympathize with the patients that are going through this. And, awareness will lead to better research. So this is very important for sure. But yeah, you're right. This is scary stuff. Okay. My surgery went better than expected. There were no complications and the lymph node had a clean removal. I was in the hospital for a couple of days, recovering with my mom by my side day and night, and my dad visiting every day. The day I was leaving the hospital, my oncologist and primary surgeon let me know that they are both leaving the University of Chicago Hospital to pursue their careers at different hospitals. I'm gonna say it again. Invest in medical research. Yes, thank you. And if anybody's watching and would like to invest in medical research, you can do so by supporting the National Organization for Rare Disorders. And there's the link to their donation page. I understand if you can't, but if you can, there it is. You have access to it. The plug. Thank you for bringing it up because it is very important. I transferred to Rush Hospital in Chicago, and so far I really enjoy it. Dr. Paul Kent is my oncologist, and he's really personable and knowledgeable. That's great. Having a specialist in your corner that really knows what they're doing is a game changer. I don't have a rare form of cancer, but I do have a rare condition, panhypopituitarism, which is a pituitary disorder that you can read all about on my website, insomniadoodles.com. Let me put that in the chat for you guys. Yeah, it's the very last link on that little plug that just came through. But anyways, I was saying, just having a rare condition, it's so important to have a specialist that knows what they're talking about, because you're going to come across, doctor after doctor that have never heard of your condition, or have misinformation, or don't know enough about it. I've dealt with that before myself, and it was not good for my health. So I'm glad that she's got a doctor that actually knows what he's doing. That's great. I got a port put in at the end of July, which has been a real pain. I'm currently following chemotherapy protocol where I have 5 FU on a fanny pack. I don't know what that is. Huh. And a constant drop every other week, 3 to 4 shots of 0.7 milligrams of interferon, once a month drip of Optivo. Right now I have no tumors inside of me. The treatment is to kill any microscopic cancers cells before they have a chance to grow into tumors. Okay. I'm going back to college in the fall to finish up my last semester of undergraduate BA at Valparaiso University. Last year I got very involved with research in my department, as well as within my internship at the campus sexual assault office. The next semester I am thrilled to continue my research with the department, as well as research with a highly esteemed retired professor. My dream is to continue schooling and get my doctorate degree in clinical psychology with a focus in neuropsychology. I know that the best years of my life are still ahead of me. I also know that the medical situation I have is going to cause obstacles down the line in the form of tumors, major surgeries, and chemotherapy. One of my main goals in life is to have a family of my own, and that is the thing that's keeping me going strong. That and my amazing, incredible, awesome mom. Well, thank you, Elise, for sharing your story. You've shared a lot of really helpful information and given us a great insight on what life is like with a condition, with a rare cancer such as yours, how that's really affected your day-to-day life and kind of threw you off track for a little bit, but I'm really glad that you've gotten back into it and are going back to school. That's awesome. I did read here where you're talking about, you had a port installed that, that gives you, I'm guessing a drip of some sort. Is it like a pump, like a diabetes pump? I know you're not here to answer questions. I am asking the void. I'm actually going to look into it really quick and see if I can't find any information on a Fibromeller port. Let's see here. Real-time research. See if I can't find any information on this. Yeah, I'm unfortunately not really seeing any hits there, but I mean let me see if let's go take a look at YouTube, learn a little bit more about Fibromeller, and then I'll look into some more stories there. I'm looking for more patient stories than, technical doctor reports. Let's check out this video real quick.
A couple of weeks off my 18th birthday, I found out I had a rare liver cancer. Before I was diagnosed, I didn't know what it was. I was just constantly sick and tired, and people would be giving me all this, as though I think they were trying to be helpful, but telling me that, you just get a needle for that and you'll be fine, and it wasn't, and I think it made me feel very alone, like no one understood. On the day I was actually diagnosed, they kept saying it's a lesion, but I think they actually told my mum what it was because I wasn't able to take a lot of it in because I was shocked. In a way, I was relieved that I'd found an answer for why I'd been so sick and that they could do something about it. I would have liked if I'd been given a clearer indication instead of being told we've found a lesion on your liver, because to me that's very non-specific. I didn't really know what a lesion was. I was thinking along the lines of an ulcer, so that was really just threw me for six. I didn't really know.
Well, that was really short. Wish they had more information on her, but well. Let's read some more stories. and that was Elise. Let's read about Chris. This is a really short one, so I might read another one after this one in the same category. In January of 2014, I got hurt playing soccer. I immediately felt like something wasn't right, but was not insignificant pain. As I was driving home from the facility, I started to feel nauseated. I called in sick to work the next day, and since the pain was bearable, tried to sleep it off. The next day, the pain got worse throughout the day. That evening, I was unable to do anything but lie flat on the floor, so I woke my roommate up late at night to take me to the hospital. I had an x-ray done, then almost immediately a CT. The doctor told me after the CT, we don't deal with this, we're going to send you to Boston. After an ambulance ride to Brigham and Women's Hospital, I was admitted early on a Saturday morning. Other than what seemed to be an endless test and blood work, I was given very little information about what was going on. Monday morning, I was visited by Dr. Thomas Clancy, who is one of the medical directors for BWH, and Dana-Farber for surgical oncology. He explained to me that I had a tumor on my liver that was most likely benign, but had a small chance of being cancer. He told me regardless of what it was, it needed to come out, and promptly scheduled me for resection surgery. I had surgery to remove the 14-centimeter mass that Thursday, 1 week after abdominal soccer injury. I spent 7 days in the hospital post-resection and then returned home. I had an appointment with Dr. Clancy 2 weeks after the surgery, at which he informed me that I had fibromegaly. I was also referred to a medical oncologist and was set up... Sorry, my voice is like... got total vocal fry going on. I apologize. I guess I got a throat thing or something. Drink some water. Maybe it'll fix it. Okay. I had an appointment with Dr. Clancy 2 weeks after surgery, in which he informed me that I had fibromegaly. I was also referred to a medical oncologist, and I was set up to see both of them every 3 months for follow-up scans. So, can you imagine having to go in and get a scan every 3 months? I used to have to get blood work done every 3 months to kind of track my panhypopituitarism, but a scan would be like kind of, I don't know what all that entails, but I've had a CT scan once, and that was a big old ordeal. So, well, a couple of times, but anyways, that's neither here nor there. The fact is, that would be a pain to have to do these scans every 3 months like that. A new tumor slowly grew on the surgical line from my initial surgery. It actually could be seen on my first post-op scan in March 2014, but was thought to be scar tissue. Each scan, this new mass grew by just a millimeter or two until November, when my doctors decided it would be best to do a biopsy to confirm what it was. The biopsy was positive, and I was scheduled for surgery again. At the beginning of February 2015, I underwent a second resection and had this 2.5 centimeter tumor removed. I'm continuing to have MRIs every 3 months. Wow, yeah, they are MRIs. Dang. Which has been good since the second resection. I've had clear scans since February 2015. Congratulations on clear scans. That's gotta be a relief. But man, MRIs every 3 months, that stinks. Again, I know Chris isn't here, but I'm wondering out loud, like, does he have to have the dye injected every time? Does that cause any health issues, having to have that done so frequently? Alright, let's move on to, whoops. Wrong page. Okay. Let's read about some patients that are in remission. This is from Ashley. I was only 23 years old when I was diagnosed with FHC, fibromegaly hepatocellular carcinoma liver cancer. This was completely devastating, to say the least. Life was good, already married, a mother, and had just accepted a new job, my dream job, as I call it. It all started with what I thought was gallbladder trouble. My doctor ordered a sonogram. At the scheduled appointment, I was told there was a spot on my liver. Test after test proved that yes, in fact, it was cancer. Next was a scheduled appointment with the surgeon. We discussed a resection removing portion of my liver. I was game for it. I had to do something. My father had just passed away 3 years prior, and I couldn't leave my family behind. I felt so alone. Knowing life isn't fair as a Christian girl, I knew no matter how hard these days were or the outcome, I would be fine. I kept the faith. Family, friends, and church family, and the community did so much for me. I showed up to the scheduled resection, and the surgery went great. Portions of my liver were removed, as well as my gallbladder, leaving me with a big scar. A day, a week in the hospital I will never forget. I suffered from pneumonia and was hooked on morphine. Oof. My oncologist said no chemo. Everyone said I was lucky, and I was, but that didn't stop the emotional part. I physically recovered at home within 4 weeks. Because my doctor saw how well I was doing, he felt it was in my best interest to move forward. Those days adjusting back to what I call normal were hard, trying to maintain family life, a wife, and a mother. I've got to do something for a bit, but I'm going to leave your stream up in the background. Thank you, I appreciate it. And thanks for hanging out for as long as you did. Totally understand, life happens and you got to go do stuff. I'm going to be here for a while, though, so feel free to say hi if you come back. Okay. I was told to no longer take birth control. It might have been a factor to the cancer. And no more children, for the same reason. The hormone levels could make the cancer return. But I am proud to say, in 2003, I gave birth to my second child. As my follow-up appointments continued, no signs of anything additional showed in the 5-year course of time, 2000 to 2005. Each one of those appointments, I geared myself up for the worst news ever, the cancer returning. Scanxiety, I like that word. In 2005, my doctor told me that I was free, only to come back if I have symptoms. I was so happy, a relief to be free. At this point in my journey, it was hard to find the common ground. Living as a survivor, in a sense, is harder because you don't have these dreaded appointments to reassure yourself. I knew my story was a must-tell. I toyed with the fact of writing it down, but ran from it after looking over my medical records, journals, cards, etc. I realized how real it was, and how much emotional pain was still there. Within a year, I felt another tug on my heart to share my story. At this point, the writing really began, which is my time of healing. I'm happy to share my 10th year of cancer-free, and my book, Daddy's Briefcase, My Journey Through Liver Cancer, has been released. Oh, that's awesome. And you can buy that at Amazon, so let me get the link there for you. And I'll share that in the chat. Sorry I was gone. I had a phone call. Nope, it's no big deal, Jeremy. It's cool. Welcome back. I just shared this story from somebody named Ashley. She wrote a book about it. I just posted a link in the chat. If anybody is interested in checking out her book, could give you a really good insight into fibromegaly, which is a rare form of cancer. Let's read another remission story. Age diagnosed, 31. Oh, this is Casey, by the way. Casey, age diagnosed, 31. Diagnosis, fibromegaly hepatocellular carcinoma. 9-centimeter tumor on liver, non-vascular, no lymph node involvement. Treatment, liver resection. Performed laparoscopically. Wow. I'm all kinds of big old words today. Oh, thank you, Jeremy. I trip over my tongue a lot when I'm reading those medical terms, but thanks. It took me some time to actually pronounce fibromegaly hepatocellular carcinoma correctly, if you weren't here for that part, but I think I got it. I'm probably still saying it wrong, but I'm saying it with confidence, and that's all that matters. Okay, let's read their story. I was diagnosed with FHC 1 week post the surgery in late May 2010. My story began when I was about 6 months pregnant and found a lump pushing out from under my rib cage. I really didn't think much of it and asked my doctor during my prenatal appointment, and he shrugged it off, saying the organs get pushed around during pregnancy and it was probably nothing. Fast forward 6 to 7 months, when my son was only 4 months old. I hadn't thought about the lump since I was pregnant, but by this time I had lost all the pregnancy weight and noticed the lump again. I went back to my doctor, and he told me that I'd be writing my own book on this because he had no idea what it was. That's a weird thing for a doctor to say, but alright. He ordered a series of scans and blood work. The radiologist determined that it was a benign tumor on my liver, probably an FNC, a benign tumor that is sometimes a rare side effect of taking oral contraceptives. I researched FNC as much as one can and found out that it can grow with hormones. I found some women who have had them removed since my husband and I wanted more children. And since my husband and I wanted more children, I wanted mine removed as well. Plus, the tumor was the size of my fist, and I could feel it in my abdomen. It creeped me out. My doctor had me see a GI specialist, the closest we have to a hepatologist in the entire state of Montana, and it was a horrible experience. He didn't even take 30 seconds to scan my chart before entering the room, and when I told him I wanted the tumor removed, he said he'd never heard of that being done before. I had asked him what his level of experience with FNC was, and he said he'd recently attended a seminar on various benign liver tumors. So his advice to me was to stop taking oral contraceptives and don't have any more pregnancies. I had never been so irate at the end of an appointment. I asked his office for a referral. I was willing to travel to see a real expert, so they referred me to the University of Washington Medical Center in Seattle. Insisting on a referral and a second opinion saved my life. Absolutely, get a second opinion. If something in your medical case seems wrong or the doctor seems incompetent, for lack of better words, definitely reach out for a second opinion, even if you don't really have any intention of leaving that doctor. It really does not hurt. Again, I don't have a rare form of cancer, but I do have a rare condition myself, and I've had to see a few different specialists over the years to get the treatment that I need for my condition. And there was one doctor that treated me for about, I want to say, 2 years. I was seeing him because he was the only specialist for my condition in my general area. He was right in my hometown, so it was really easy for me to go to his office for my appointments. But after a while, I kept, feeling sicker and sicker, and I would tell him about my symptoms, and he seemed just really like he didn't care. He pretty much treated me like a hypochondriac, and, being extremely condescending, which unfortunately is something that you see a lot in doctors. But this guy was just didn't care whenever I told him, what symptoms I was dealing with. So I asked for a second opinion, and went to see an endocrinologist that specializes in my condition, which is about a 45-minute drive away from my home, which wasn't terrible. But I'm glad that I got that second opinion and went to see her because, as it turns out, not only was this doctor treating me incorrectly, but the treatment that he had me on was actually risking my life. I have adrenal insufficiency, and to treat that you have to take oral steroids. And he had me on such a high dose that it was actually causing me to have symptoms of a condition called Cushing's disease, which is basically the opposite of adrenal insufficiency, where your body produces too much cortisol. So I was experiencing those really bad Cushing's disease symptoms. And so this new endocrinologist fixed that right away. She got me on the proper dose of steroids to keep my body functioning, and my health greatly improved. So as they were saying, second opinions, very important. No matter what your health issue is, get a second opinion if you feel uncertain about what you're dealing with. Yeah, it was bad. I wrote a negative review on that doctor on Google. So I don't want to make him mad or anything, but people need to know when there's, potential malpractice afoot. Okay. Back to their story here. A few long weeks after my appointment with the GI doc, my hubby, son, and I flew out to Seattle and met with a surgical hepatologist. UW has weekly tumor review boards where a group of surgeons, oncologists, and resident doctors all sit around and evaluate each case. After looking at mine, they determined that the tumor showed too many atypical characteristics to be conclusively diagnosed as FNC. Because of that, and the size of the tumor, performing a biopsy was out of the question since there was too large a margin for error, so I was given two choices. Leave the tumor in and risking it become malignant or rupturing, or have it surgically removed. We returned to Seattle a few weeks after, and I had a laparoscopic liver resection performed on May 26, 2017. I was in the hospital for 4 days. On the 5th day, I flew well, I can no longer pronounce L's apparently. On the 5th day, I flew home, which was probably too soon, but I was eager to heal and recover in my own bed. Understandable. Plus, we had put our house on the market the day we left for Seattle and already were under a contract, so we had to begin house hunting as well. Shoot, I can't imagine going through like a surgery and treatment like that and trying to sell your home at the same time. But then again, rare conditions don't care what you're doing in your life. They will throw you off track. Just inconsiderate conditions, rude. But dang. Hopefully that went well. A week post-surgery, I still hadn't heard the pathology results, so I called my patient care coordinator. Honestly, cancer still hadn't crossed my mind, even after being told there was a possibility the tumor could become malignant. Just for the record, in case anybody watching doesn't know the terms malignant and benign, malignant means that it can spread. Benign means that it won't spread, it'll just kind of stay at the size that it's at, in its location. Malignant tumors can just kind of spread out, get bigger, go throughout the body. So that's the difference between those two terms, in case you didn't know. I felt blindsided when my surgeon called me back and explained that the deep breath. Read a little more slowly. You had training for this. Okay. Honestly, cancer still hadn't crossed my mind, even after being told there was a possibility the tumor could become malignant. I felt blindsided when my surgeon called me back and explained the pathology results caught them by surprise. He explained that it was FHC and began instructing me on long-term follow-up, finding a local oncologist, follow-up scans, blood work, returning to Seattle if it were to return, etc. At that point in the conversation, I was completely frozen. I couldn't digest what he was telling me at the time. How could I, a new mom, 31 years old, have cancer? My world was turned completely upside down, I imagine. Yeah. Since the diagnosis, I've had 4 follow-up scans and have all come back clean. Like anyone with FHC, finding information was like searching for a needle in a haystack. My local oncologist had no previous experience with FHC, so my husband and I have been my health advocates and educators to our doctors, friends, and family about this type of cancer. Awesome. Good. Thank you for being an advocate. That's super important. In February 2011, I returned to Seattle in search of more answers and met with an oncologist at the Seattle Cancer Care Alliance, who coincidentally has sat in on some of the reviews of my scans. I have all of my scans and reports sent back to UW for a second opinion. He outlined a lifelong surveillance plan and sent my local oncologist, my surgeon at UW, and my family doctor. Now that everyone is on the same page, I feel like I'm better able to cope with the FHC diagnosis. February 9th, 2016 update. I'm now 37 years old. It's been over 6 years since my tumor was discovered, and over 5.5 years since my liver resection. I am down to yearly scans and blood work and continue to have a clean bill of health with no signs of disease. I am grateful that I have the opportunity to live my life with only yearly scans, yet I still have the anxiety about what could happen. In many ways, me, my husband, and I have been changed forever by this experience. Life's moments are fleeting, and since our fibro journey began, we have a much deeper appreciation for life and constantly try to balance living for the moment, living a healthy and purposeful life, while saving for our future, knowing that this disease, or another disease or tragedy, could happen. It's an approach to life that I think only those that have been closely touched by an experience like this will understand. Yeah. I haven't dealt with cancer myself, but from the perspective of somebody with a rare disorder that can really throw your life off balance, I totally understand that. Our family has grown since the journey began. We welcomed our daughter into the world in June 2013. At this point in my journey, I feel like I'm living a fairly normal life for a 37-year-old, balancing family, health, and work. I live for my family and the memories we're making. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing your story, Casey. That was great. I'm glad that you're in remission, and hopefully it never comes back again. Okay, so we've read some stories from current patients and from patients that are in remission. And this is sad, but I feel like we should share some stories as well from patients that have passed because of this diagnosis. This is Amanda's story. Hello, my story. Where to start? It's a long one, so I appreciate you all taking the time to read it. How about we start about August 2009, though in hindsight, I think there were signs before this time. Between August and October of 2009, I was having a lot of symptoms that I wrote off as being a normal, stressed out, overworked 30-year-old. I was very tired all of the time. I would go to work and come home and sleep or lay around. No matter how much I wanted to do something, I just had no interest. Then I started having a hard time eating. It seemed as though I'd get hungry, but once I made something, I wouldn't want it. I began not being able to even drink coffee, which I adore. It's like I was so hungry, but my body didn't want me to eat it. I also started becoming very nauseous and even throwing up from time to time, out of the blue. I was never one to vomit, ever, so this was quite odd. Also, I had severe headaches and random fevers off and on, and what I described as a heartburn and a full feeling over a year prior to all of this. Oh, hey there, Stefan. How's it going? Good to see you. Doing an awareness stream for Rare Cancer Day today. So, I'm currently reading some stories from patients dealing with a rare form of cancer called Fibromelar. Hold on. I want to make sure I have this right. Fibromelar hepatocellular carcinoma. So I'm currently reading the story of a patient that sadly has passed away from this condition, but she had shared her story on the website, so I'm reading that out loud for everybody in observance of Rare Cancer Day today. I did not have insurance or a primary doctor, so I went to the walk-in clinic on several occasions and was diagnosed with everything from gluten intolerance to having ulcers. As I lost weight and got no relief from my symptoms, I again returned to the walk-in clinic. This time I saw a doctor who pressed on my stomach, then my liver. I hit the roof with severe pain, and he said my liver was inflamed and needed to be tested for hepatitis. Blood work came back fine, except elevated liver enzymes, which really didn't answer anything. The pain grew from that day until I could not tolerate it anymore. Up to my shoulder, into my back. I was weak, pale, and exhausted. I found my way to the emergency room, in which the doctor said I was most likely having a gallbladder issue. Since I live in a small town in New Hampshire, if it's past 8 p.m., they can't do ultrasounds. I was sent home until morning. I returned for an ultrasound, which showed that my gallbladder was in excellent shape, but I had a lesion in my liver. I was told not to worry about it, but see a doctor at some point for a follow-up. I had found a doctor I was going to stick with by this time, and I saw her within days. She read the ultrasound report and immediately referred me to a gastroenterologist. This place was in Maine, and they wanted me to wait 2 months for my appointment. 2 months. God. Defeated. Can you imagine being in pain like that and being told that you have to wait 2 months to be seen? Ugh. Alright. Excuse my rant for a second, but that is ridiculous. Defeated, I went home and wrote out the pain and exhaustion. On November 3rd, I got a high fever and called my doctor. Right? Yeah, that's the perfect emote for that situation. I got a high fever and called my doctor. She told me to go to the ER immediately, and she would call and tell them that I was coming and they needed to help me. To this day, I am so thankful for her. I had a CT scan which showed a huge mass on my liver. My local hospital called in a surgeon who opted not to take my case and suggested I be moved to Maine Medical Center. I was transported there in the morning. They kept me a week and did a bunch of tests and a biopsy. The biopsy was inconclusive, as they often are. A wonderful medical team was assembled for me in oncology department, along with a liver surgeon named Lisa Rustine. She is brilliant, in all caps. On November 16th, 2009, I had a liver resection, which removed a 10-centimeter tumor along with 50% of my liver and gallbladder. I was in the hospital for 10 days. During this time, they tested the tumor for cancer. Sorry, guys, I gotta stop for a second and switch out my glasses. Because of my eye condition, I've got that... Oops, sorry for hitting the microphone. I've got double nystagmus, which means my eyes kind of twitch and move in different directions, which could be a pain. And what that can cause is kind of like a form of double vision, which would take some of the text from one side of my vision and some of the text on this side and kind of like layer it on top of each other. So I've got these glasses that kind of keep that layering from happening. I don't wear these very often because my field of vision is so restricted with them. But I'm going to put them on for this, and I got to get closer to see it. Yeah. Okay. So, let me get my bearings and find out where I'm at. Also, I've gotten so close to my screen, I gotta tilt this down so you can actually see me. Okay. I'm gonna actually scoot this a little closer, so bear with me for a second. Alright. Okay, had a CT scan. Already passed there. A wonderful medical team was assembled for me in the oncology department, along with a liver surgeon named Lisa Rustine. She is brilliant, all caps. November 16, 2009. I had a liver resection which removed a 10-centimeter tumor along with 50% of my liver and gallbladder. I was in the hospital for 10 days. During this time, they tested the tumor for cancer. I was diagnosed with fibromelar on November 20th, 2009, at the age of 31. I went home to recover, which anyone who has had a resection knows is a long road. I was told there were no signs of metastasis, so I was set up to have a scan three months post-surgery. My first scan was good, but I needed a drain placed at the surgery site due to infected fluid that had collected. Ooh. This was an unpleasant and painful process, but I was glad that the tumor had not returned. In June of 2010, during a scan, my doctor found a lesion on my upper left lung. Due to my history of cancer, I was assigned a wonderful lung surgeon named Seth Blank in Maine. I had a wedge resection in my lung, which they took out and tested for a lesion. It tested positive for FHC. It was devastating. I recovered well and went home. In October of 2010, they discovered the same thing on my lower right lung. Again, I had it removed. Then in January of 2011, they noticed a third tumor growing. Damn. I had a referral to Dana-Farber in Boston, Massachusetts. I saw a wonderful lady who agreed that the best option was to go for a third wedge resection. This was the second one for my left lung. The recovery was a bit harder, and I had just had surgery 9 weeks prior. Thankfully, my lung surgeries have been done with a scope. Since January of 2011, I have had 2 CT scans, and they have come back clear. This is the first break I have had since 2009, and I'm very happy for it. Let me mention that since the initial surgery on my liver, it itself has remained tumor-free. I will continue to go every 3 months to Maine Center for Cancer Medicine and see my oncologist, have a CT scans and blood work. Due to the fact that my tumors thus far have grown singly and in isolated fashion, my team has recommended that I not have any treatments other than the surgeries at this time. Just close monitoring. I agree and have added into my life a much healthier diet, a therapist to help with the depression and anxiety that comes along with learning to live with cancer. I live in New Hampshire and share my life with my wonderful wife, Kelly. We have spent the last 9 years together, and she is my rock. She has been on my side on this roller coaster of emotions and has willingly assumed many roles in the past year and a half for every surgery, every recovery, and every achievement along the way. She has been there. I don't think I would be here today without her. I'm thankful for that, as well as my best friends and 2 godchildren. I would also like to add that I have never spoken to or met anyone with this type of cancer, which, considering how rare it is, it checks out. May 21st, 2012 update. Just thought it may be a good time to update this doc a little. I have now had a year and a quarter of clear scans. This month, my oncologist has decided it's okay to switch to 6-month scans. I'm still having problems with being tired, but otherwise feel well, so I'm cautiously optimistic. As of this weekend, I'm proud to say that I have now met and spoken with many other loving people touched by and fighting FHC. May 15th, 2013 update. Seems it has been almost a year since my last update. First, I will say a lot can happen in 1 year. I did have a year and a quarter of clear scans and was switched to 6-month scans. However, I did not get to the 6-month mark before having trouble. I was having some pain in my side, lower than I had ever felt. It was a dull ache and became more pronounced as time went on. I was very tired, also nauseous. I saw my doctor, who ordered the CT scans as a precaution. After about a week, I learned that I had a tumor on my right adrenal gland. There had been a small spot there in the past, but it was stable, so they weren't comfortable saying that it was a tumor. So after comparing the 2 scans, it showed that it had grown. I met with my liver surgeon, Dr. Rustine, and she and my oncologist and I decided it best to go in and remove the adrenal gland and tumor. I had this done September 19th, 2012. The doctor had to go back in through the incision from my original liver resection in 2009. She was able to use the same scar and only needed to extend it a bit. The surgery was very successful. I had about a 5-day stay in the hospital due to the size of the incision and a fever. Recovery at home went smoothly, it seemed. I bounced back quite quickly. I had a 3-month follow-up scan December 21st, 2012. This time the news was pretty rough. They found 2 tumors on my liver and 2 in my right lung. It was devastating. This being my first recurrence on my liver and the second in my right lung. Also, this was the first time that I had multiple tumors in multiple places. I'm going to fast forward through the mundane meetings with the surgeons and specialists and just tell you the outcome. When all of that was said and done, we developed a plan to go in and do bland embolization. I'm gonna have to look that up. And radiofrequency ablation on my 2 liver tumors. Once those were taken care of, my new lung surgeon, Dr. Tracy Wegnall, would then take care of my lung tumors. On March 7th and 8th, 2013, I had the tumors done. I was able to leave the hospital after 2 days, but had to return due to uncontrollable pain and low-grade fever. I met with a palliative care team member for the first time during the stay. Sorry I'm reading much slower now, but like I said, my field of vision is like a lot smaller due to these glasses, but they are helping me read, so bear with me. She was amazing. Got my pain under control within several hours. A scan showed that one of the tumors they had treated had ruptured and the fluid had built up around my diaphragm, causing pain. I went home in 3 days and recovered quickly. Actually, I'm gonna take these off. Man, she had been on a roller coaster. Okay. I'll just deal with the double vision, it's fine. Excuse me. Okay. In April, I had my 4th lung surgery. First, I was taken in to have 2 tumors tattooed with ink so the surgeon could see them better during surgery. Never heard of that practice, but that is interesting. One was very small. I was taken to a surgery about an hour later. Double vision sounds like it should be a superpower. Yeah, right? Okay. I had 3/4 of my right upper lobe removed. The reason for this was because the ink they used for the tattoo, the ink they used to tattoo the tumors infiltrated my lung and caused it to all turn blue. Whoa. This made her unable to see the exact location of both tumors. That's terrible. Dang it. Ugh. She opted to remove as much of the lobe as possible without affecting my breathing. Pathology showed that she did get the larger of the 2 tumors, but the small one remains. I was out of the hospital the next day. I returned home and am recovering well. During this time, I also connected with some important people about sharing tissue from my past surgeries, as well as banking the newest tissues I have removed. Being able to help with the research for a cure has been very important to me. Scans now show that the tumors on my liver are completely dead, and there has been no regrowth. My lung shows no change in the size of the tumor. I spoke to oncologists and surgeons and expressed a desire to have some downtime as it seemed like I am in a stable place. They all agreed that it would be safe to take the summer off and resume scans in August, as long as I'm feeling well. At the time, we will look forward to taking care of the remaining tumor and evaluate the rest of my situation. During the last year, I have kept in contact with my peers who have fibromyalgia, as well as leaning on them for support during the dark times and celebrating the good times. As of now, I am looking forward to enjoying the summer, going on vacation with Kelly, and celebrating our 11th anniversary. I am also looking forward to rebuilding my strength and energy. And then, sadly, she passed away in 2015. Man, she went through the ringer. It's rough. But Amanda gave a really, great retelling of her story, so I appreciate her sharing that. Okay, we'll read one more story, and then we'll move on to another form of rare cancer, so that we're not just focusing entirely on fibromyalgia, which is, definitely a rare cancer, but there are more to cover today, for sure. So, alright, this is Clinton's story. Okay. And his wife, Jenny, wrote this for him. Clint's FHC journey started in August of 2015. Significant weight loss, pain in his abdomen, getting painfully full after small meals, getting dizzy, and utterly exhausted during normal life activities like grocery shopping. Overall, just not feeling great. Clint started seeing a doctor in September because things felt off. After a full month of several blood tests and being tossed back and forth between several different specialists, Clint's doctor finally decided that he needed an appointment with their GI specialist. As a standard procedure, they did an ultrasound of Clint's abdomen to review before his appointment. The next morning at 8 a.m., Clint got a call from his doctor's office asking him to immediately go to St. Luke's Hospital in Houston, Texas, because they found a spot on his liver. Naturally, we were alarmed by this, but we could never have imagined that we were heading into a journey that we were. They did a CT scan that afternoon and informed us that Clint had a 16-centimeter solid mass on his liver. We stayed overnight, and the next day they did a very painful biopsy of his mass. We had to wait 1 week for the official results, but Clint's doctor prepared us that it was likely cancer and referred us to an oncologist to move forward with. 1 week later, on Thursday, October 22nd, 2015, we got the official results that we were dreading. Clint was diagnosed with stage 4 fibromegalar hepatocellular carcinoma. We quickly rescheduled appointments with Dr. Kaseb's team at MD Cancer Center to guide us into the next direction. Less than 1 week later, around the beginning of November 2015, Clint was starting treatment, 5-FU and interferon, which another patient had said they were taking in the current patient stories. After dosage and schedule adjustments, he ended up doing 1 week on and 1 week off of treatment. His first scans in January showed shrinkage of about 20%, which was incredible. We were anticipating this to be our ticket to get him into and eligible for surgery, but were extremely disappointed when Dr. Kaseb's team told us that it was highly unlikely that Clint would ever become a candidate for surgery. Those words still ring in my ears like it was yesterday. We scheduled an appointment with Dr. Vadi, a surgeon at MD Anderson, the following week anyway, just to get his opinion, and he was pleased to tell us that yes, he felt confident that he could successfully remove Clint's tumor and the surrounding lymph nodes. He wanted to operate on Clint, and we scheduled the surgery immediately. Again, this is why second opinions are important. If there's one lesson that we learned from today, it is to seek second opinions when you're not feeling comfortable about your current medical situation. It can't hurt at all to get your second opinion. Okay. On February 25th, 2016, Clint had a liver resection, and they removed his left lobe and several surrounding infected lymph nodes. This surgery took about 5 hours, and Clint made a full recovery afterwards. Dr. Vothy was sure that he had resected all of the tumors and considered Clint cancer-free going forward. Clint's first post-surgery scans were in the middle of April 2016. They showed us 2 spots, one on his liver and one near his stomach. Dr. Vothy felt confident these 2 spots were scar tissue left from the surgery, but he wanted to watch them just to be sure. The plan was for Clint to continue on treatment, 5-FU and interferon, after his surgery. But he halted the plan. Now we were going to do 1.5 months without any treatment to see if the 2 spots grew or not. Scans in June showed that both the spots grew, and several more showed up on his liver too. Clint immediately started treatment again, 5-FU and interferon, at the end of June 2016. Clint powered through the summer in treatment like no other. He honestly had the determination and courage not to let this hold him back from living his life. We went on a few trips that summer during his off weeks for treatment and enjoyed concerts, went hiking through the mountains, fished in the ocean, gambled in Las Vegas, got engaged, and spent quality time with our family and friends. Clint's story would not be complete without mentioning his will to power through his treatments and genuinely enjoy each day. July and beginning of August 2016 were great. Clint was feeling run down from treatment, but he was also feeling good. He had a way of knowing his body. He always knew that his scans should, growth or not, he knew that his scans he always knew that his scans should, growth or not, before he even got the scans. Towards the end of August, Clint started having new pains, mainly in his back. He knew the scans would not be good, and we were right. Scans at the beginning of September showed that the current treatment was no longer working, and the cancer had spread to his chest with several small nodes in both of his lungs. Time to regroup. We knew there was a phase 2 clinical trial being held at UT Southwestern in Dallas, Texas. ENMD 2076, specifically for FHC patients. We knew a few other patients who were having success with the trial, and this was the route we wanted to take next. Excuse me. Dr. Kaseb was on board with us too. September turned out to be a roller coaster though. Clint had issues with his bilirubin skyrocketing and spent the majority of his month going in and out of the hospital for procedure after procedure. After a second attempt to successfully place a biliary stent, things were finally stable. His labs were finally cleared to start the ENMD 2076 trial at the end of October 2016. The trial was challenging, as we traveled from Houston to Dallas every week for a month for labs, checkups, etc. At the beginning of January 2017, Clint's scans showed mixed results. After consulting with Dr. Kasib, we all unfortunately agreed to move on and look for better treatment options. Clint started a new phase 1 clinical trial at MD Anderson in the middle of February 2017, MLN 0128, paired with Ziv aflibercept. I don't know what that is. Ziv wow. Hold on, let's Google this. Let's see here. What is this? Okay, it's a chemotherapy drug. Ziv aflibercept. Oh boy, I don't know how to say that at all. Oh, there it is.
Aflibercept.
Aflibercept, okay. Ziv aflibercept, okay. That was hosted by National Center Institute. The trial had a rigorous schedule, but was otherwise manageable. Clint felt great during the first 2 months of the trial, much better than he had in a while. We were feeling good about the upcoming scans. In the middle of April, Clint flew home from his bachelor trip in Key West at 6 a.m. for scans in Houston at noon. As I said, very dedicated to living his life fully and on his own terms. His scan showed mixed results, and although there was some growth, the cancer had spread to his bones, there was also an 18% shrinkage. We were over the moon and hopeful by this response, and Dr. Kasib was too. The plan was to continue on the trial. However, one thing happened after another, causing them to hold Clint's treatment each week. Clint officially stopped the trial soon afterwards, as he'd only been able to take 2 doses over the past 5 weeks. It was time to look for new options. During this period, Clint had also started having fluid problems in his lungs, around his heart, and in his abdomen. He had 2 Plurks catheters placed on each of the lungs that we began draining daily at home. He also had a procedure in the middle of May to drain the fluid from around his heart. Clint started taking Nexivar, sorafenib, on June 1st, 2017, with the hopes to stabilize things so that his health could improve and he could qualify for a new clinical trial soon. That was our goal. Side note, in the middle of all this chaos, we somehow managed to take a 12-day road trip through Colorado and get married in the Vale at the beginning of May, surrounded by all of our closest family and friends. Clint was actually in the hospital the week before we left our 4 days in the back of the Let me reread that sentence because I messed it up. Clint was actually in the hospital the week before we left for 4 days, and back in the hospital again the week after we got back for 5 days. Wow, truly God's timing. In the middle of June, Clint was admitted to the hospital, and we ended up staying for 28 days. He had a major bleed in his stomach caused by a tumor pressing into it. After that was under control, Clint went through the 5 days of radiation to shrink the specific tumor and keep it from being as problematic. Then it was just one thing after another. Clint's heart reaccumulated fluid that we had to have drained again. He was unable to get back on blood thinners because of the major bleed and formed blood clots in both of his legs and one of his arms. He was unable to keep down any food, just a few of the main concerns. On July 5th, 2017, we got the most unexpected, devastating news. Because of all of the issues that Clint had going on, starting treatment again would be too hard on his body. We were told that Clint had a few months left, and we left the hospital with follow-up appointments at MD Anderson and home health care, still holding on to every ounce of hope that we had. 2 weeks later, we were back in the emergency center. We were told that Clint's kidneys and livers were beginning to fail. We set up things with the hospice care and pushed to get out of the hospital as soon as possible. We came home the morning of July 29th, where Clint spent quality time with his family, friends, and puppy. He was more aware and responsive than he had been in several days, talking and laughing and being himself those last few days. Clint was called home to be with God on Sunday night, July 30th, 2017. Clint was an independent and carefree person who loved his family, friends, music, sports, and being outdoors. Dang it, don't make me cry, how rude. Man, yeah. Again, stories like this are really, really hard to read, but so important to share what life is like dealing with a condition like this, for sure. Yeah. Okay, so Clint was an independent and carefree person who loved his family, friends, music, sports, and being outdoors, especially fishing. He was young, healthy, and active when diagnosed with FHC in 2015. One time shortly after his diagnosis, Clint's surgeon joked that he was the healthiest cancer patient that he had ever seen. After his diagnosis, Clint remained dedicated in his work as a safety engineer. Wow. Can you imagine? Damn, okay. His many hobbies and his will to fight his illness. He was a courageous fighter and maintained an uplifting, positive spirit even throughout his final months. Wow. And again, his wife is the one that wrote this. She said, I'll forever be grateful for the 21 months that God gave Clint to live bravely and love fiercely in the face of such adversity. I know he was just as grateful for that time, too. In honor of Clint, his family and I have chosen to remain a part of the FCF family to help spread awareness. That's awesome. Okay, well, I know that I'm calling people to donate to the National Organization for Rare Disorders today for the for Rare Cancer Day, but here's the link to FCF, the Fibro Foundation, for so that you can donate to further their cause, specifically get more research out there so that we can keep stories like this from breaking our hearts again in the future. Oh man, but hey, you know what? I got a box of Kleenexes, so we're all good. Whew. I knew that it was going to be tough to read those in memoriam stories, but they needed to be shared. Wow. Damn. And a big thank you to Clint's wife for writing that. That had to be difficult. But you did an amazing job. Alright, let's look back at the Rare Cancer Day hashtag. See what other forms of rare cancer pop up here. Whew. Huh. Well, this looks like an interesting book, though. I'm gonna check this out. Dancing with Doctors by James Hallfield. Let me see here. Dancing with Doctors. Says that it's humorous, so I could definitely use that. What was the author's name again? James Hallfield. Well, I'll have to check that out later, but I'm going to like this tweet. And, yeah. Cats and books, very good. Actually, guys, I'm going to have to go use the restroom and get some more coffee real quick. And when I come back, we'll kind of look through this hashtag and see if we can't find any, other rare forms of cancer to explore today. If I don't see any on the Rare Cancer Day hashtag that kind of catch my attention, we'll go to the National Organization for Rare Disorders Rare Cancer page on their website, and I'm sure they have some of those listed there. But I'm gonna go refill my coffee cup here, which, by the way, I am definitely using my Hope Comes in All Colors cancer awareness mug that I got from the local cancer society. Gotta represent. But I'll be right back, so hang in there, guys, and I appreciate you hanging out with me. Let me see. I want to leave this Twitter feed up on my Be Right Back screen, so let me do some OBS magic here real quick. copy this overlay. Ah ha ha. Oh. Hold on. Still didn't save the... Oh yeah, I didn't copy this, so let me copy that too. There we go. Cool. Okay, so that will stay up. You guys can read those tweets. I'll be right back. Let me fix this returning thing. Because, that's from the last stream, and this is different. Let's see, what time is it now? 3:15? I'm going to take a 15-minute break then, and then I will come back at 3:30. Give my eyes a break, get some coffee, restroom break, you know the deal. Whoops, that's... I leave the wrong one. Hold on. I get this. We're good. We're good. Alright, guys. And I'm gonna get some music going for you so you're not all alone. Oops, that's not what I meant to do. I'm cutting into my own break. Okay, hopefully this playlist is good. Enjoy. I'll be back in about 15 minutes.
mask doesn't come off.
Hello, I'm back. What's up? Hey there, electric guy. Sorry I was gone when you were here, or when you got here, but had to go have some lunch, but I'm back now. And we're gonna read about some more rare forms of cancer. Electric guy, since you see here, your name seems familiar. Have you been here before? Yeah, you've been following since July, so yeah, thank you for stopping by. I'm not sure if you've encountered any of my advocacy streams before or not, but this is one of them. And today we are doing an advocacy stream for Rare Cancer Day. Please, guys, let me know if that music's too loud or too quiet, and I can adjust it accordingly. Alright. Seems like it's at a decent level now, though. But I had a nice lunch. Thanks for bearing with me while I stopped and got something to eat. Setting up a couple of things here really quick, and then we'll get back to the stream. Okay. Excuse me, sorry for clearing my throat. Did I mention I just ate? I don't know why it's not letting me adjust OBS volume, but fine. Okay. I just, since I had, sound notifications, like the, follower notifications and stuff turned off for the first hour of the stream, because we were attending that webinar and I didn't want to distract from it, but I turned it back on now. So that should be good. Alright. I am back, but give me just a second. I'm going to run and take some ibuprofen really quick. I've got a bit of a headache. I have a feeling it's just my eyes being strained, but that's alright. I don't mind it. Ibuprofen will help, so I'll go take some really quick and I'll be right back. Okay. Well, that should help in about 10-15 minutes or so. Alright, so let's get back to learning about some rare forms of cancer, huh? Move this over here. Get my stuff situated. This keyboard back over here for now. Oh boy, advertisements.
Whether it's for a quick and easy weekday meal or a seasonal
Excuse me, guys. All right.
Kroger, we get you, and we've got that. And now you can get home delivery in as fast as 1 hour, or enjoy same-day pickup at the store. Either way, we think you're really gonna like how easy it is. So order today on the Kroger app or at Kroger.com. Fresh food.
Now that I'm back, let's get back to it. Okay.
It doesn't care that I'm a mom to busy teenagers.
It doesn't care that I'm a year away from retiring.
It doesn't care that I'm finally a grandma.
Breast cancer doesn't care, but we do. At IU Health Cancer Center,
well, at least this ad's on topic, right? Okay. Oh, let's PTE and they talked about that a little bit during the yeah, during the webinar that we had earlier today.
Geico radio commercial number.
So let's check this out.
Geico is hiring claims, sales, and service agents at our Indy office. Here, hard work doesn't just get you a pat on the back. It gets you opportunities to grow and learn new skills. Work in an inclusive culture and with supervisors who have your back.
Okay, that's
Could you
the
speak
wrong
up?
one.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Wait, how do I apply?
Oh, keep reading.
Oh, Geico is hiring. Go online to geico.job/India to apply today.
Okay, now the ads seem to finally be over. Please let me know if the music's too loud or too quiet and I can adjust it, but I'm going to read a little bit about PTEN here. PTEN, Hamartoma tumor syndrome, PHTS, often shortened to PTEN, is a rare genetic condition. It's thought to affect about 200 to 300 people in the UK, although a number of patients identified about 150 as of July 2017. It's caused by an alteration of the genetic code of a gene called PTEN. This is an abbreviation of its full name. Wish me luck. Phosphatase and tensin homolog. Homolog? Phosphatase and tensin homolog. Alterations are sometimes passed down from parent to child, and sometimes the alteration is spontaneous. Sometimes referred to by its older classification Cowden syndrome, CS, or Banyan-Riley-Ruvalcaba syndrome, BRRS. These syndromes, collection of symptoms, were first identified in the years before the development of genetic testing. Following the discovery that these different conditions were caused by the same gene. Hello, Gabe, welcome back! I just got back myself. I just went and had lunch. Now we're reading about PTEN. These syndromes, collection of symptoms, were first identified years before the development of genetic testing. Following the discovery that these different conditions were caused by the same gene, they were amalgamated under the one name, PHTS, or PTEN, Hamartoma tumor syndrome. There's a wide range of symptoms associated with the condition, which can vary considerably in severity. When recognized in children, it can account for issues such as big head, macrocephaly, developmental delay, and autism. There is an increased risk of certain types of cancer in adults. People with this condition may have other problems affecting their skin, including unusual pigmentation and wart-like lesions. Some people have fatty lumps called lipomas or overgrowth of blood vessels, arteriovenous malformations. If you're waiting for a diagnosis, are newly diagnosed, or just have suspicions, please take a look at our new to PHTS page. More detailed information can be found on our On Diagnosis page. There is no current treatment or cure. Wow. Patients are managed according to their symptoms. Doctors will discuss appropriate cancer surveillance for each person. Damn. Well, let's take a look at the blogs. And there's a patient story here. PTN patient story, Yvonne. Well, that's a depressing thing to come back to. Yeah, well, I mean, you can look at it that way, or you can kind of... I mean, it's definitely depressing, but I think it's better to be kind of hopeful and kind of err on the side that talking about things like this and bringing more attention to them will help bring more attention to it and hopefully get more people funding research so that we can find a treatment or a cure for this. But it does definitely suck that there's no treatment or cure for this condition other than treating the symptoms as they come. But let's read a patient story here. Awareness. Yes, indeed, Jeremy. Yes, thank you. Okay. At our patient day on 24th of November 2018, Yvonne kindly told her inspiring and insightful PTEN story. I wonder if there's a recording of this, maybe. Looks like they only have the transcript here. That's okay. I'll read it out loud. Gotta boost that perception as high as possible. I think I know what you meant. Indeed. Okay. Hello everyone, it's a pleasure to be here today and to share our patient story with you all. My name is Yvonne, and if you can't tell already from the strange accent, I've traveled from Glasgow in Scotland with my husband Martin and two of our three boys, Hayden and Evan. Our son Hayden, who is 7 years old, was diagnosed with BRRS, which is one of the branches, if you like, of PTEN HTS. He was diagnosed about 4 years ago when he was about 3, I believe, just before he started nursery. As you may already know, along with several other things, some of the common features of BRRS may include macrocephaly, large head, large birth weight, developmental delay, and intellectual disability, and other things in addition to this, but not always all of those things. It was Hayden's birth weight and large head size that first prompted our health visitor to ask our GP for referral to genetics. So it seems like this condition is congenital, so you're born with it. It's not something that you develop over time, unless I'm mistaken. But from what I've read so far, it seems to be something that you're only born with, since it's genetic. Excuse me. Hayden was born in July 2011, weighing 11 pounds, 13 ounces after a pretty traumatic birth for us both in an emergency delivery due to his weight and head size. No one, including myself, was immediately concerned about Hayden, and we all just put him down to a larger than normal baby, apart from being unable to hold his head up on his own when he should have been able to. He met all of his developmental milestones on time. However, he continued to grow off the chart. We were referred to genetics by our health visitor, who was the only one with concerns, who we thought was overreacting. Our genetics doctor ordered blood tests and investigated, etc., and soon after we received the diagnosis of BRRS, PTEN syndrome. I'm not going to lie, receiving that call was like being punched in the stomach. I was in shock and extremely upset. I didn't have a clue what this disease was or what it meant for my boy. The only thing I took from the conversation was the C word, that I had or would soon have a very sick son. Thankfully, that's obviously not the case, and I'm a bit better informed now that I was immediately after the call, but diagnosis was an extremely scary time, and if you're anything like me, the first thing you'll do is run off to the internet, which, let's be honest, is as useful as it can be. In some situations, it's not always a helpful tool. From what I remember, the only information I could find on BRRS and PTEN syndrome were all the doom and gloom. Maybe it wasn't, but frantically searching the net, that's all I took from it. So thank goodness for the days like this network of PTEN patients where we can gather together and share up-to-date information, positive stories, and just get support when we need it. After Hayden's diagnosis, my husband and myself and 2 boys, and my other 2 boys, were tested for a mutation of the PTEN gene, but all of our tests came back negative, meaning that Hayden's mutation was completely sporadic and wasn't hereditary. Which I think was a surprise to the genetics doctor, as she pretty much convinced us that it was highly likely that Martin or myself could be the carrier. So apart from the physical things Hayden has associated with PTEN, his macrocephaly, large head, being taller for his age, Hayden was also diagnosed with having autism just before he started school aged 5. However, we feel extremely lucky that although he is autistic, and sometimes that is obvious in the way he interacts with others and the way he is socially, we feel blessed that so far he attends mainstream school and is very much on par with his peers and education-wise. In fact, he is in the top rating group in his class, and last year was so far ahead of his classmates, they sent him to another teacher for his reading so he wasn't being held back. He's also a great speller, loves maths, and he actually loves school and adores learning. He's like a little sponge. Tell him something once and he absorbs it and won't forget. He's got a huge circle of friends and has a better social life than probably most of us in this room. He goes to youth club, after-school sports, swimming, karate, and football. Due to his autism, or perhaps PTEN, I'm not sure, he does lack coordination. We've accepted the fact that he's never going to be the best Pele or Messi, but that's not important to us. It's important that he does things that he enjoys, and lives his life as normally as he can. Our close family members and friends know that Hayden has PTEN syndrome, and we've tried to explain to them what it actually is, but to be honest, all they take from it is that he has a genetic condition that increases his risk of developing other things, cancer, in the future. I personally don't feel that we as a family should dwell on Hayden's PTEN syndrome or his associated autism on a daily basis. They're just a part of what makes him, him. He's so much more than a child with PTEN and autism diagnosis. He's an amazing wee boy. He's unique, he's smart, he's funny, he's incredibly loving, he's super kind to all of his classmates, and he'll be right over there to comfort any of them if he sees they're upset, or he'd offer to play with them if he's seen they were lonely, and for me, this is a bigger part of who he is. Perhaps without PTEN or autism diagnosis, he wouldn't be the same person, and I wouldn't want that. I wouldn't change a single thing about him. However, we still don't dwell on his diagnosis of PTEN syndrome. It's obviously important to us to keep an eye on it. So treatment-wise, again, we feel lucky that all of Hayden's care takes place under the Glasgow Royal Hospital for Children, which is part of the QEUH, Queen Elizabeth University Hospital, which is a brand new state-of-the-art hospital, which is also known as Scotland's Super Hospital. We can literally see the hospital from our front door. Wow, that's awesome, actually. So we never have far to travel for any of Hayden's appointments. At the present time, Hayden is under the care of an endocrinology doctor, lovely guy, Dr. Gufter Seek, I think, how do I pronounce his name? Who he sees once a year to organize a yearly thyroid scan, and this year started taking some blood, too, to check liver, kidney function, and I'm sure he mentioned vitamin levels, too, etc. That's the first time he's had blood tests done, so we'll see how that goes. Hopefully it'll be normal. I'm sure it will. Hayden used to also see a dermatologist once a year for a skin check, but now we just advise the endocrinologist, Dr. Seek, if we have any concerns, and we can just be referred across to the dermatologist. It was fine when he was younger, having his skin checked from head to toe, but as Hayden gets older, he's 8 next year, we've got to respect his privacy when a female doctor wants to remove his underwear in front of mom and dad and any students in the room, to check his skin and nether regions. I feel as a mom that his skin is something that I see on a daily basis, or that I see, his skin is something I can see daily when he's being bathed, etc., so I'm happy to just be referred back to dermatology if needed. What works for one family might not necessarily be what works for another. It's just trying to gauge what you feel is best. Hayden also gets a yearly eyesight test, and then on the same day he has an in-depth look at the back of his eyes by a consultant ophthalmologist. At the moment he has no symptoms as far as we're aware. The only checks he will have until he is much older. Sorry, this is the only checks he will have until he's much older. So this is their experience of healthcare system and professionals. I'm gonna take a drink of water real quick. I feel a little congested. Excuse me. Whew. I know it's not perfect, but I am a huge lover of the NHS system, and I rate it highly, and I think we're extremely lucky to have such a system here in this country, and personally, I can't fault them for the care they've given to us. I'm happy that we've got a relatively quick diagnosis and the referrals to the correct departments for his checks. And even though his checks are yearly, I know that if I have any concerns between those times, one phone call and they'd fit him in as soon as they could before that. So my experience of the medical care we've received is definitely positive. Thoughts for the future? At the moment, I'm happy to take each day as it comes, and I don't spend much time overthinking the future. Of course, I do think about it at times, and probably one of my main concerns is explaining the syndrome and its possible implications to Hayden without causing him too much anxiety or upset. He's already asking questions about why he needs checkups, etc., but I just try to keep it age appropriate for him, telling them that we all have this gene called PTEN, but his works a bit differently, so he just has to check. So they just want to check every year to make sure he's healthy. And I think that if I had any advice or tips to give caregivers, especially younger children, would you just be honest with them, keep them informed and up to date, let them be part of and have a say in their care, but keep it age appropriate. Obviously, everyone knows their own kids best, but I feel if you keep them involved and talk through their concerns, etc., then they will probably have less anxieties and worry less. I certainly find this to be true with Hayden anyway. I've also found it useful to keep not only his school, but his class teacher informed of his condition as well as the issues that come with it, issues that may seem trivial, like his large head size, but we've got to remember that in normal school activities, this can pose problematic and at times embarrassing situations for the kids. For example, in nursery they all had a graduation ceremony and all wore their mortar hats, but Hayden had a ridiculously big one that had been cut up the back. And whilst I appreciate the effort they went to, I just singled him out in front of the other kids as being different. That does sound really embarrassing. We got away with that as he was only young, but now I try to keep on top of things. Like this year, in the Nativity, he's playing King Herod, and I've already written the teacher explaining that I will provide him with his crown. I don't want them trying on all the crowns they have for the props department in front of all the other kids, only to discover that, surprise, surprise, none of them fit because of the macrocephaly. Hayden now understands that he has a large head, and again, trying to keep it age appropriate for him, I've just told him that it's due to his PTEN syndrome. But how can he have a smaller head when he's so clever? That's cute. He needs a head large enough to hold in his big clever brain. It's just small things like that that I try to solve before they become an issue, because no kid wants to stand out for the wrong reasons in school. I know I probably won't always be able to protect him from every single situation that might arise, but if I can, I will. to the newly diagnosed. To anyone who has perhaps been recently diagnosed, the first bit of advice that I would give is don't panic. I know it's easier said than done, but excuse me again. But I wish I could have told myself that when I first received the call. Also, don't go believing everything you read on the internet or blindly Googling things. Of course, go ahead and try to educate and inform yourself. It's a rare disease 99% of the time. You'll know more about the condition than the doctors you meet, but make sure your information is taken from reliable sources. Very good advice. Like out PTEN, UKI patient groups, or from proper medical journals. Work with your doctors and consultants. They might not have come across this syndrome often or at all, but give them a chance to learn about it. And at the end of the day, we can't expect them to know everything, but at the end of the day, they'll want what's best for their patients too. And if you think that you or your child should be getting something that you are not, ask them for it. For personal experience, I found that our doctors to be more than accommodating. At first, they told us they wouldn't scan Hayden's thyroid until he was in his teens, so it wasn't deemed necessary, but I just asked if they'd please do it for my own peace of mind, and they seemed happy enough to just do it. So, newly diagnosed, don't panic, research your information, work with your doctors, and keep up to date with this group. So that's Hayden's patient journey so far, and we just hope that many more uneventful years ahead, and yearly checkups that quickly all come back showing everything is good. Okay. Yep, and that was, what was her name again? Yeah, that was Yvonne, wow, I know this name, but like reading it, you know, sometimes when you read something it comes across as weird. But that was Yvonne's story about her son Hayden. We learned quite a bit about PTEN from that. Seems like it's congenital, because it is genetic. Let's see some other facts about it. I wonder if there's a YouTube video that we could watch. Okay. So, this video seems to be about the PTEN gene itself, and I'm sure they'll get into the type of cancer that's caused by mutations in the PTEN gene. Let me pause the music really quick. So let's watch this video.
Today we're talking about PTEN, a gene that suppresses tumor growth. When PTEN functions normally, it blocks the growth of certain abnormal cells. When PTEN is changed or mutated, those cells grow and can lead to cancer. If you have a PTEN mutation, you are more likely than most to develop cancer at a young age, and sometimes even multiple cancers, including cancer of the breast, thyroid, kidney, endometrium, colon, or melanoma. Some PTEN mutations are linked with autism and macrocephaly, which means an abnormally large head. If you think you have a PTEN mutation, don't worry. With more frequent cancer screenings, physicians are able to detect cancer early when it can be more easily treated. If you have autism, early interventions may help. If you have a personal or family history of cancer or autism and a large head, talk to your doctor about whether genetic counseling may be right for you.
Okay, so yeah, that was informative. Nice video too. They did a good job on that. Like. Okay, so that's the I've been saying PTEN, but apparently it's pronounced P10, which is way easier. Okay. Let's see what else they got. Let's explore it a little bit more. There's an anti-bullying page on here. Aw, that's nice. They've got a really nice anti-bullying page here, which I'm gonna go ahead and share in the chat. Because why not? Click here if you want to see that. Lots of helpful resources. Okay, let's go back to the hashtag here, see what else we can come across. So we've learned about fibromalar tumors and PTEN gene malformation related tumors. Lots of oh wait, I was gonna say lots of P10 hashtags in here. That's because I was on the P10 hashtag instead of the Rare Cancer Day one. That checks out. Oh, that's not a... I misspelled. You guys didn't see that. That didn't happen. Okay. CML. Okay. Chronic myeloid leukemia. Wow. That's really rare. Let's check this out. So I'm checking out the page for CML Advocates Network. Let me share that in chat so you guys can give them a follow if you're interested. And we'll check out their website. Wonder what this video is. Oh, very short. Just showing the conference there. Looks like an advertisement video. See if they have. Sure, you can use my cookies. That's fine. I don't mind. I wish this pop-up would go away though. That would be nice. All right, fine. Let's see here. Check out their education and science page. Let's search YouTube for a video, see if somebody's made one on CML. Okay, these look very good. Okay, we'll check out this video first.
Hey guys, it's Medicosis Perfectionalis. We are back to talk about chronic myelogenous leukemia. Thanks to the people who watch my videos on YouTube and the great people who support me on Patreon, I was able to buy a new microphone to produce better audio quality for these videos that you guys like, so thank you so much. Chronic myelogenous leukemia, you have the 922 translocation, you have proliferation of all of the white blood cells except for the lymphocytes, because this is a myeloid leukemia, not a lymphoid one. So you have neutrophils, monocytes, basophils, and eosinophils that are increased in number. Chronic myelogenous leukemia. Let's break that down and let's do it backwards. Leukemia, malignancy arising from bone marrow stem cells. Any cancer is by definition monoclonal, one crazy cell. Myelogenous, which means it's of the myeloid lineage of the bone marrow. As you know, bone marrow has myeloid and lymphoid lineages, so especially the neutrophils will be numerous. It's a chronic leukemia, meaning the patients are more mature, which means older patients. The cells are more mature, which means smaller in size, which means that the blasts will be few or non-existent. Let's go back to our nice illustration here. Bone marrow, myeloid, and lymphoid lineage. In CML, chronic myeloid leukemia, we are talking about these guys. Let me ask you a question. Do you expect neutrophilia in this type of cancer? Yes. Do you expect basophilia in this type of cancer? Of course. Can eosinophilia happen? Yes, indeed. Chronic myelogenous leukemia is a chronic leukemia, which means a monoclonal disorder of the late stem cells. The cells are smaller, more mature, but dysfunctional. Being mature doesn't necessarily mean that they are functional. Hello, it's cancer. It's a chronic leukemia. Patients are older. Onset is slower. Cells are smaller and more mature. Very few blasts, less than 10%. Less than 10% is a chronic leukemia. 10 to 20% is myelodysplasia, which I've talked about before. More than 20% is an acute leukemia. Acute equals blast. Can you guess the type of leukemia by age? Roughly speaking, yes indeed. CML patients are usually between 40 years old and 60 years old. CML, one of the chronic myeloproliferative disorders, which include CML, polycythemia vera, essential thrombocytosis, and myelofibrosis with myeloid metaplasia. All of these myeloproliferative disorders have common characteristics such as splenomegaly, reactive bone marrow fibrosis, and they can transform into an acute leukemia such as AML or ALL. Risk factor for CML, radiation, not any radiation, ionizing radiation, and in high doses. The age bracket, again, more than 40 years.
I just realized this is a 17-minute long video, and it's very technical. So I don't think that's quite what we're looking for, but it kind of gave me a little bit of an insight here. Let's watch this one here. Actually, even better, there's a patient talking about their journey. So we'll watch this, and then if we feel like we need to gather more information, we'll watch the CML 101 video. Sorry about that, guys. I hate to change all of a sudden, but Jeremy, thank you for the bits. Ad biddies, thank you very much for watching an ad. I know that was torture. Thank you, I appreciate it. Thank you for the bits. Alright.
The story of CML is that of a disease that has been transformed from a fatal cancer into a chronic condition within the majority of our lifetimes. Dr. Siddhartha Mukherjee, 2011 Pulitzer Prize winner, wrote, "In 10 years, each of us, on average, will know one person with this leukemia who is being kept alive by a targeted anti-cancer drug." Chronic myeloid leukemia is a cancer of the blood and bone marrow, characterized by the presence of an abnormality called the Philadelphia chromosome. The PH chromosome produces a defective enzyme known as BCR-ABL tyrosine kinase, which is responsible for blocking the signal that tells the body to stop producing white blood cells.
Today, CML is considered the archetype for targeted therapy in hematology and oncology, with its treatment success providing hope and inspiration for a number of other diseases. The understanding and treatment of CML is a result of the collective commitment of researchers, clinicians, industry groups, and organizations such as the European Hematology Association from around the globe.
Worldwide, approximately 49,500 people will be diagnosed with CML this year. That's a path of people 13.7 kilometers long. With the recognition of BCR-ABL as the key driver of Philadelphia chromosome-positive CML, management of the disease has evolved considerably.
Since the last 50 years, a tremendous effort to find out exactly what the causes of these leukemias are and to use this knowledge to develop new targeted therapies.
Although the same numbers of people are being diagnosed with CML each year, today more and more people with CML are living out their lives. This is due to a fundamental change in how this cancer is treated. Historically, evaluations of patient response to treatment focused on hematologic responses, but they have now advanced to include more sensitive techniques that can assess cytogenetic and, most recently, molecular responses. Today, these responses are measured during the course of treatment with a recommended timeline for achieving each type.
So in that sense, there has been a sea change in our methods by which we measure the response in CML.
What we're trying to do now in CML is to develop strategies to eliminate minimal residual disease. And several of these strategies are being undertaken as we speak.
The future goals for CML is to come up with a treatment that can eliminate the stem cell, the original cell that gives rise to the leukemic cells which are in the peripheral blood, and promote all the symptoms of CML. The next decade or so is going to bring us very big excitement as well, with the further understanding of how the leukemic stem cell is controlled, and therefore trying to switch off that leukemic stem cell.
And that's the end of that one. Seems like CML isn't all that rare, but that was a very informative video and I'm glad that I watched it. Interesting. Okay, let's see what else is here on the Rare Cancer Day. See if there are some other forums that we can read about. Oh yeah, that's true. One of the big facts today that it's down here, like kind of over to the left at the bottom. One of the facts that comes up is the fact that any child cancer is considered a rare cancer. So that's just a little fact to keep in mind. Excuse me. Let's check this out. But first I'm going to go to the NCI Cancer Research page and follow. I encourage you all to do the same as well to learn a bit more about rare cancer advocacy from that group. And let's go check out their website. Looks like they do a lot of clinical trials in their research center here, which makes sense, considering it's a research center. Let's check out the About page. Yeah. Alright. I think now it's time to switch over to the National Organization for Rare Disorders website, rarediseases.org. And take a look at their Rare Cancer Day page. Go to their coalition page. So I am kind of encouraging everybody to kind of, if you have the funds to do so, to donate to the National Organization for Rare Disorders for Rare Cancer Day, because they're the ones that are kind of organizing this day as an event for everybody to kind of come together and advocate for awareness for these rare cancers. And they do have a Rare Cancer Coalition on their website, which I'm actually going to copy this and put this in the chat for you guys. Which is doing great work for advocacy, research, patient stuff. These are all of the Rare Cancer Coalition members. There, as you can see, are a lot of them, which is fantastic. I wish these were links I could click on. That's okay. Let's go back to the hashtag here and see what else there is to see. Let's learn about sarcomas.
Many people battling cancer, and no one should go it alone. Sarcoma is considered a rare cancer, one that grows in connective tissues like bones and muscles.
Yeah, so we have Haley Smith here and Michael Albrecht with us today, both survivors of sarcoma. And you both have incredible stories, and actually, you have big news that you just shared with us earlier this month.
That's
Please
right.
share.
Yeah,
Yes,
of
please
course.
share it.
Just a few weeks ago, I was declared no evidence of disease. I was battling. Thank you very much.
Nice.
I was battling stage 4 Ewing sarcoma, and went through a rigorous stem cell transplant, and it's now behind me.
Oh my goodness.
Good for you. That must be such a liberating feeling.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's the feeling of all the stress being relieved. Unbelievable.
That's great, my friend.
Thank you.
Great. Yeah, so glad to hear. Very cool.
Haley, talk about your journey.
Yeah, I was diagnosed with osteosarcoma bone cancer last November. Went through 10 weeks of chemotherapy, a really crazy surgery to rebuild this arm.
It's a beautiful arm.
Thank you. I'm now a bionic woman.
You can't tell.
And then 20 more weeks of
I would never be able to tell that was a prosthetic arm.
hospital stays.
That's awesome.
All to be declared no evidence of disease also in August.
Oh my goodness.
Unreal, yeah. But what is
That's
it that
incredible.
people don't understand about this fight and about what you've gone through?
So I think one of the biggest things is this protocol for sarcoma is really, really challenging. You spend for me personally, I spent every single chemotherapy infusion in the hospital. The drugs that they give you, you're not allowed to be taking orally or at home. So yeah, it's just you spend a lot of time in the hospital getting to know your care team very, very well.
Not bad.
And it's underfunded, to say that it doesn't affect that many people in the grand scheme of cancer is not really fair. So yeah, it's definitely something that there needs to be more research and more funding for to catch it early. And that's what the Northwest Sarcoma Foundation is doing for people like Michael and I, helping patients and also spreading awareness.
Yeah, I was going to say, you both have spread awareness. Tell us about some of the ways that you've been involved.
Well, I love doing public speaking. It's I think a talent of mine. Hopefully others think so too. Thank you.
Good, my friend.
So just being here is one way I can help raise awareness for sarcomas and other rare cancers. I perform live speeches. I've done writing that's been published in several newspapers, and just sharing the spirit of being down with cancer.
Yeah. And this looks like blog posts or something. What are we looking at here?
This is part of a YouTube video that we, is it Alexandra?
Amanda walked the aisle for me, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so this was a segment that aired previously on your show about me in the hospital celebrating my graduation because I was unable to be there in person.
That's phenomenal.
And you still have a big smile on
Yeah,
your face,
great
which I
smile.
love.
So tell us about this big event coming up, the Northwest Sarcoma Foundation. How can people help?
Yeah, so we got a huge, great event coming up. It's called the Nightlife Gala. It's on October 19th at 6 p.m. You can look it up just type in Google Northwest Sarcoma Foundation, pop right up. We also have another event coming up in May 30th. It's the Dragon Slayer Fun Walk. We do it every year, and it's a blast. You're going to love it.
I know. Haley, you did that.
Yeah, I did the one in Portland just recently in September.
Hello,
and I also participated in the last Dragon Slayer walk in May around Green Lake. It was just right after my surgery, so it was pretty awesome to be able to walk around Green Lake only with one fibula.
Not everyone can say that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I had a team of over 80 people show up, so it was a good time, and it's for a great cause.
All right, so we need to slay sarcoma.
Yes.
That's the key word, right? So
Rose
if
Hall
you want to
can
know
read
more
there
about the
for
event,
that-
you can
that
text the
clapping
word
on
night,
emphasis.
like KNIGHT.
Hey there, Electric Guy.
to
Welcome back.
206-448-4545, and we'll send you all the
Thanks for
information.
coming
Thank
by,
you
friend.
very much for
Thank you
sharing your
very much,
stories.
both again. Appreciate it.
Okay, so sarcomas. It seems like that's a type of cancer that targets the joints. Let's learn a little bit more about that. Thank you. It's Sean. Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you for putting a name to your name. Okay. So thank you I'm glad that you were able to join us. I've been at this for a while now, and I plan on keeping on going until I can't do it anymore. We just checked out this video that was there it goes. That was shared by the National Organization for Rare Disorders, talking about sarcomas. So they linked this Sarcoma Foundation, so let's follow them and check out their website, learn a little bit more about sarcomas. And this is these are the events that we're just talking about. So I'm gonna copy this link, put it in chat for you guys. If you're interested, check this out. Maybe you're in the area and could go to some of these events. That would be awesome. I know I can't. I'm in Indiana, so I'm a bit farther away than is helpful for that. Sorry I left earlier. I was driving and my mom clicked the wrong notification. That's okay. That's all right. No need to apologize. I'm happy that you're here anyway, so thank you for coming back. Okay, let's check out some patient stories. So, I think this is the girl that was in that interview, wasn't it? Maybe? I'm gonna have to zoom in to be able to read this. Okay. So, let me read through. Make sure this is going to be informative before I start reading. Okay. These are calls for help, for donations to help fund their treatment and stuff. So I'm looking for more information on more about the sarcomas themselves. So let's head back to YouTube, see if we can't find any videos talking a little bit more about sarcomas. And I'm actually going to go back and retweet this because that was really interesting and informative. This is a video from the Johns Hopkins Kimmel Cancer Center talking about sarcomas, so this should be good.
My name's David Loeb. I'm a pediatric oncologist here at Johns Hopkins, which means I take care of children with cancer, and in particular, I take care of children with tumors that arise from connective tissue like bone and muscle and tendons. There are about 13,000 new cases of sarcoma in the United States every year. This compares with about 195,000 new cases of breast cancer every year. But despite that, they're very common in children, so about 15 to 20% of all childhood cancer is a sarcoma. And in children, those are usually tumors of bone or of muscle. Ben was diagnosed a few years ago with Ewing sarcoma. He was found to have hip pain, which is kind of an unusual complaint for a little kid. And his pediatrician recognized that as an unusual complaint and did x-rays to try and understand why, and found a tumor in his hip and referred him to us. And he came to Hopkins and we biopsied the tumor and we diagnosed him with Ewing sarcoma.
After Ben was diagnosed in January 2006, early January, we began the process, and it was very quickly detailed out for us. Dr. Loeb and Dr. Kaywood met with us and told us everything that we would have to do or decide to do within that year, and it would take about a year for the whole process of his chemotherapy and treatment.
His treatment involved the full sarcoma team, so he was evaluated by radiation oncology, he was treated by pediatric oncology with almost a year's worth of chemotherapy, and he had surgery from my colleague Dr. Weber in orthopedic oncology to remove his tumor and a large chunk of the normal bone around it, which is really important to making sure that the tumor doesn't come back after the surgery.
When
that was my charge pack falling, sorry about that.
The tumor was in the acetabulum, which is the hip joint, so it's right about here. They took the entire cuff as well as the good portion of the femur.
I'm fine. I just dropped this.
Cut them away completely. Then they took the remaining part of the leg and femur, shoved it up inside the body, poked 4 holes in it, as well as 4 holes in the remaining portion of the pelvis, and used fiber wire to sew him back together.
Ooh.
He went through a lot. He, as I said, had a year's worth of chemotherapy, but after his surgery, because of the amount of bone that had to be removed, he was in a cast that went from his underarms all the way down to his knees for about 6 weeks. Sarcomas are one of the types of childhood cancer where we're making excellent strides in curing patients. And these days there are some forms of childhood sarcoma where 90% or more of the patients are cured with a combination of chemotherapy, radiation therapy, and surgery.
It felt really like stressful how I couldn't move that much, and it like got really hard. Like sometimes I had an itch and I couldn't reach it, or I couldn't move because I was really stiff. So, but when I got it off, I was really I felt like so good because I actually felt air, and it just made me feel new.
Looking at Ben now, he's 12, pushing 13 very soon, soon to be teenager. And to think that this was 4.5 years ago, that we were in the throes of it all, and it just seemed like more than we could handle. It's such a blip on our radar now. It is a part of us. It's a part of our history. It always will be who we are. But it's just that. And it's not the black cloud that you think it will be over your life.
That was a great video. So thank you to Johns Hopkins for creating that and sharing it. Alright. Let's go back to the hashtag, see about learning about some other forms of cancers. So far we've learned about fibromedullary cancer, MCL, sarcomas, and P10, malformation-based cancers. I'm not sure what MDS is. Let's check this out. This is Brian's story, and this is shared by the National Organization for Rare Disorders, posted by Valerie on that website. How was your day? My day's going pretty well. I can't complain too much. I woke up. I actually was able to do a little bit of exercise, which was nice. Did a little bit of walking on the treadmill, lifted my 5-pound dumbbells like a, powerful badass. Had a nice breakfast, and here I am. So, I've been doing this since about 11 o'clock. I was working on the stream, pumping iron, yeah. And now I'm getting close to wrapping up the Rare Cancer Day stream, I think. Because I've been at this for about almost 4 hours now. So my eyes are starting to ache. They've been aching. I took some ibuprofen actually, but it's not helping as much as I was hoping it would. So this might be the last story that I read here, but I definitely want to read it. Wham! The news that I received from my doctor was a left hook to my temple thrown by Muhammad Ali. I was just told that I had myelod... Hold on a minute. Melodus. Well, this is fun. This could be like a game show thing trying to pronounce some of these rare conditions. Myelodysplastic syndromes, MDS. I'm just gonna call it MDS. Oh, hi Hi, Cody. How's it going? In the future, you'll have eye implants like Terminator, and Cody said, don't bring Sarah Connor into this. Okay, my name is Brian. It was December 2016, and my doctor at Moffitt Cancer Center in Tampa, Florida, Dr. David Salmon, sat me down to explain the ins and outs of my specific diagnosis. He mentioned that I had hypocellular bone marrow, not enough. He talked about my excessive blast in my bone marrow, too many. There was mention of insufficient platelets, white and red blood cells, too few. He explained that my MDS subtype was rare, 10% to 20% of those diagnosed out of 10,000 diagnoses per year in the U.S. You guys in chat. All I remember really at the time was that it was very confusing. Add to the discussion at the topic of how long do I have question, and it seemed that I would be dealt a knockout punch. Just as a fighter steadies himself after a devastating blow, I paused and tried to shake off the effects. But how? I knew I needed a plan. First, I needed to follow my doctor's immediate advice. I was hospitalized for a week and underwent Atgam treatment, followed by my taking cyclosporine pills for months. The goal of treatment plan was to suppress my immune system, allowing my bone marrow to reboot and begin producing healthy blood cells again. Unfortunately, 6 months later, we decided to end treatment as my lab test revealed my values had only grown worse. Although the failure was disappointing, I didn't let this one round dampen my spirits. Next, I focused on my training to live and thrive with this disease. I need to zoom in a little bit. I knew I needed to read as much as I could about this disease. I obtained additional insights and information from my PCP, that's primary care physician for those of you not in the U.S., nutritionists, pharmacists, and mental health professionals, and even acupuncturists. I quickly realized that the more I learned about this disease, from symptoms to treatment options, the better. Knowing that I draw strength from the wisdom and guidance of others, I started an MDS support group in the Washington, D.C. area. I can't say enough about how important it is to hear and share with others our twisted and varied journeys. As of today, my doctor considered me to be stable but bad. Fortunately, I am asymptomatic and do not currently need transfusions nor medications. I'm on a watch-and-wait status, watching my lab values and waiting for them to worsen, before I can receive my cure, a bone marrow transplant. Right now, the benefits of the transplant outweigh the risks, so I can continue to train hard for the future. My training now includes significant exercise in the form of biking, walking, and running. The prospects of my fight with MDS look good. I'm still leading my support group, and those who soon start volunteering for outstanding organizations like AAMDS International Foundation and the MDS Foundation. I will have more fights and short-term battles with my disease than I know. I'll have days in struggle and pain. However, I see a future where my disease is cured with a bone marrow transplant, and I envision new drugs and therapies that will ease the worries of disease recurrence, graft versus host disease, and other post-transplant complications. Now that I'm active, knowledgeable, and engaged, I may take a few more punches, but I won't let this disease knock me down again. So why share my fight with you? Because I once read a similar story from a teenage patient with MDS who inspired me to fight. If she could overcome her situation, then why couldn't I? If I had advice to give, it is to work with your doctor on becoming as strong as you can, physically and mentally, whatever that means for your situation. Enjoy your time with family and friends. Educate yourself on your condition. Volunteer and or participate in forums and local group activities. Know you will take a few hits every now and then, but you are strong enough to get back up and face your challenges head on. Simply put, train to win. I'm going to win my fight, no matter the outcome. So, that's Brian's story dealing with MDS. Which, again, is, Miles... Let's see how to pronounce this. Google, help. It does not have the pronunciation on here. Oh boy. Well, I tried. Oh, thanks for joining the server. I appreciate that. Sean, I guess I'll see you around in there. That's probably the best place to see updates on when I'm gonna stream and stuff. Well. I've been doing this for about 4 hours now, so... But you know what? Instead of ending the stream, I'm going to keep the Twitter feed up there. And I think I'm actually going to work on a painting that I've been meaning to work on. So let's do that. Actually, you know what? Scratch that. Instead of doing the painting, I'm going to work on my Inktober for today, because I haven't done that yet.